Welcome to a sparkling new podcast from Mike Parry and Mike Graham. We're the two Mikes.
Actually, it sounds even better when you do it Dullsville, because when you try to be happy and excited and energetic, you sound pathetic.
Thanks.
The puffin will be in your back garden within years.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the two Mikes on talkSPORT. We've had an election, but nobody can decide who's won. Jeremy Corbyn's claiming victory, even though Labour have got fewer seats than the Tories. And Theresa May is under pressure to resign, even though she's increased her party's share of the vote. We'll be hearing from both of them, but if you're confused, you won't be after another 3 hours with us and a host of special guests, including Paddy Ashdown, 08717 22 3344. Also coming up on the show, we're looking ahead to the Scotland-England game tomorrow, which is the equivalent of a hung parliament, I think, and there's a special Porky quiz on it. And after last week's shocking score of 7 out of 10, we've had to bring in special security to make sure Porky hasn't seen the questions in advance. You're listening to the two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the two Mikes, and I'm delighted to say, just 4 hours after I said cheerio to him, it's time to say a very good morning once more to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
It certainly is, Mike, and what a kerfuffle, eh?
What a kerfuffle, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a technical term?
It's a technical term for the hung parliament. Now, last time we had an unsatisfactory hung parliament.
Yeah.
Because you have to say the Cameron government, I suppose, was a satisfactory hung parliament because it was resolved into a coalition.
It was eventually,
okay,
yeah.
Well, it wasn't that long, about 3 weeks, wasn't it? Something
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
but I mean, there was some unseemly kind of backdoor dealing, you might say, between Gordon Brown, between Nick Clegg, who's now out of the parliamentary building altogether, and of course nobody was really sure whether one day it might be Gordon Brown staying in number 10. He didn't want to leave. Do you remember? He was sort of barricaded in there.
Yes.
And Theresa May might be in a similar situation. Yes. She may wish not to leave number 10.
She may wish not to leave number 10. You're right. Now then, in 1974, Edward Heath surprisingly won in 1970 for the Conservatives. In 1974, Mr. Heath called an election because he was having terrible trouble with the unions.
Yeah.
And he said, right, let's decide who runs the country, me, the Prime Minister, or the unions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the country decided it was the unions.
Yeah, well, exactly, and he was shunted out. But that's the one question I've got for everybody this morning, and I think it's a pretty straightforward question. Should Theresa May resign right now?
Yes.
I mean, it looks like she's going to come out this morning and give a speech in which she's going to say, I'm not walking away because we need stability in this country. Well, we had stability already before she killed the election. And now she's going to say we haven't got stability. Then I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I think she should resign. I don't know whether you agree with me, but I want to hear from people out there because we want to take calls this morning. 08717 22 3344. Surely she should do the decent thing and just walk away.
Well, I am totally with you on that one, but for different reasons. In my view, there's going to be another election, and it's going to be probably in autumn, I would say,
more
September,
than likely,
October.
More than likely, if not before that, if there is a real crisis.
Oh yes, I agree. If not before that, if there's a real crisis. But I think if she tries to stagger on with a minority government, just to finish the 74 story, Harold Wilson staggered on with a deficit of 33 overall. That is a massive minority government.
Yeah.
He realised it couldn't work, so later that year in 74, he went to the country again and then ruled, or at least he and James Callaghan ruled, for 5 years on a majority of 3.
Yeah.
Right?
And that was wasn't that when they had the famous scenes where they had to sort of
carrying MPs into the
people
chamber
in from hospitals and stuff like that, and emptying out hospital beds and getting people in to vote.
Absolutely.
It's madness. Absolute madness.
Yeah, complete madness. But so my view is that that's very unstable government, and you need somebody who's leading from the front. Now, I'm completely apolitical in this, but if I was running a party that had gone into bat with a 20% lead at the start of the campaign.
I think at one point it was as high as 24%.
24%, I think, for a bit at the start of the campaign. Yeah. But who then managed to waste that and whittle it down to nothing at the end of the campaign, bar a few percentage points, but not a decisive majority in Parliament. I would not let the leader of that team have a run at it again.
No.
You'd have to say that was bad management of a campaign.
Yes.
Therefore, I would insist, if I was the chairman of the Tory party or if I was the chairman of the Labour Party and the same thing happened, look, if we're going to go into an election a few months after the last one, when we squandered such a lead, I'm not having the same person leading from the front.
No.
You'll have to step down and we'll have to have somebody else.
Well, it was described by one of our guests last night on the show as if Theresa May had been starting off with a 5-0 lead.
That's right.
Very much at the beginning of the game.
Yes.
And then it got to the last minutes of the sort of the last knockings.
That's
of
right.
The 88th minute, and suddenly they lost 6-5.
That's right, and I think I very cleverly preceded that by saying that Jeremy Corbyn was a Leicester at the start of this campaign. Everybody thought he was going to go for he was going to be relegated, right?
Yeah.
What happened? They ended up as Premier League champs, and Corbyn has ended up as a champ.
Well, he hasn't quite, because the thing is, as much as we're all saying...
He pretty much has.
Well, no, he's claiming victory, right? But he has got a lot less seats than the Tory party, so this is why it's so confusing, because it looks as though Theresa May has lost, when in fact, what I think is a more accurate description of what's happened here is nobody's really won.
Listen,
what do you think of that?
Well, what I think of that is, I think Jeremy Corbyn could be standing down himself as leader of the Labour Party had the election gone to form and had the Conservatives taken advantage of their 24% lead.
Yeah.
However, what is now going to happen is that Jeremy Corbyn is going to serve at least another 5 years as the leader of the Labour Party.
It would certainly seem that way.
That's a champ-like result, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's a good result for him, but let's not forget, let's not put things out of kilter here. The bottom line is that the Tories are still the party with the most seats, and so therefore they will be the party that is initially asked to form a government. Now, they may have to get into bed with the DUP. Now, they, of course, the Democratic Unionist Party over in Belfast, run by a woman called Arlene Foster.
That's right.
Now, she is a woman who was the First Minister of Northern Ireland, but due to a bit of a problem which circulated around...
the boiler replacement scheme.
Boiler replacement scheme, which was called Renewable Heat Incentive.
That's right,
which scandal it became known as. Because she had to resign after the scheme ended up costing the taxpayer 490 million quid.
I know.
Because it turned out that lots of people were getting wise to the way she'd set it up.
Yeah.
And if you had an empty shed in the back of your garden, you could claim to heat it with a boiler.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. So, I mean, she's not exactly the world's greatest person to do a deal with, but people will do the deal with her if necessary.
People will deal with the devil if it saves their soul.
Indeed. 08717 223344. The big question is, should Theresa May just resign right now? I think she should. Let's talk to Dan, who wants to have his own say on the show. Dan, a very good morning to you. What do you want to say?
Morning, guys.
Yeah. Hi, Dan.
Well, I mean, to be honest, frankly, I think I've got to a stage where I don't really care whether May resigns or not. I think one thing which is becoming clear over the last couple of years is that people are tired of these politicians and they can't be trusted with a potato gun in their hand, let alone running a country. David Cameron goes in, he runs a referendum, he goes that we should stay in EU, people basically get him fired from his job. Theresa May comes in, she becomes the president, invokes the Article 50, wants to run the country, wants to get stability, loses seats.
Right.
Nicola Sturgeon comes in. She says, I want to do another referendum. She has 56 out of 59 seats. She loses 21 seats 6 months later.
Yeah.
So there is a trend going on here that people actually do not trust these politicians at all. You're telling me the world is actually in a very precarious situation. You look at Middle East, you look at Europe, migration crisis, the terrorist threat. NHS is crumbling, and all we can sit here and think about who's got the majority, who can negotiate Brexit. I mean, the world has more important things to run.
Yes, I think that's a very good point.
We have a very, very delicate situation in this country. We were going through, in the G7 countries, fastest growing economy despite all the worldwide problems, and we have basically gone back and shot ourselves in the foot. Instead of becoming leaders in the world, we are becoming a laughing stock, frankly.
No, Dan, we've got to invoke everything you've said, and you're quite right, there are very important problems in the world. We've got to have a leader in this country to be able to invoke the action that's needed to tackle those problems in the world. So I'm sorry, but although I agree with most of what you're saying, we have to go through our democratic political process to find ourselves a leader.
I completely agree with you on that. But the thing is that what are the alternatives available? Honestly, like you're telling me that the next people we are sitting here is like Boris Johnson. Really? Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister?
But hang on, Dan. I mean, the bottom line is, the question I asked, and I want you to answer yes or no, is should Theresa May resign? You said you didn't care, but I think it's important, isn't it?
Unfortunately, she's in a position where the next alternative is even worse than her. At least she can be held accountable for what she has put us through right now with the Article 50, and she has to see the process through.
Yep.
But I don't believe she will see the process through.
No,
and one of the things that we discovered over the course of the few hours that we were on overnight is that if she starts the negotiations about Brexit, she will not finish them, because more than likely she will be dumped out of the head of the party seat because the party doesn't want her anymore.
So whatever happens, do you really trust anybody to negotiate Brexit right now? I think that process should be...
I think right now Brexit's dead and buried, to be honest.
Well, I don't think it's dead and buried, but we do have a Brexit minister, you know, Dan, and his main job is to go in there and, you know, like the civil service do, get the guidelines sorted out, and then the leaders of the countries inside the EU and ourselves then have to reach a deal. That's going to take some time anyway, but the negotiations, even for that preliminary process, were due to start in 10 days. So
exactly.
we are in a dilemma.
And you mentioned the word guideline.
Yes.
Where is the guideline going to come from now?
Well,
who is going to give that guideline?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We've still got a Brexit minister, and I think we've got a prime minister on very thin ice, on you know, shaky, wobbly ground. But we do have a Brexit minister, and that Brexit minister will just have to assume the responsibility for it.
Well, that may well be the case.
I think we somehow have to swallow our pride as a nation. We have to stop this process right now. We need to get the stability back in our country and need to figure out what we exactly want to do. The first referendum that we did, frankly, I mean, listen, I was a Remainer campaigner, and obviously I wanted to remain, but I respect the democratic process, and I want to stand behind everything that the country decides as a whole. And I'm a citizen, so I have a fully respect for the process. However, having said all of that, when that process was run, the full facts and figures, and a lot of things that has come out has been, we know that the facts were based on lies.
A
lot of things.
Well, no, we don't know that. That's a claim. Dan, let me ask you this, because time is short. Do you think that the offer of another Brexit vote could be the mainstay of a new election campaign in the autumn?
No. I think the Brexit process should be halted indefinitely for right now.
OK, you don't think that it should be put to the vote again? That's what I'm saying. One of the two parties could say, oh, and by the way, we're the party that's going to offer you a second go at the Brexit vote. I think that could be a key measure, to be honest, on one side or the other.
The problem with that is the only party that was in the market this particular election to remain in the European Union was the Lib Dems. And while they've had a few extra seats, they are nowhere near the sort of numbers where they would have any influence whatsoever.
I totally agree with Mike. Look, we are back almost on the results last night to two-party politics, OK? What I'm saying is, whichever of the two main parties now can sell to the electorate confidently and without being made to look foolish, the idea that they will supply a second opportunity in a Brexit vote, I think will take a big advantage into that election.
Well, then the Tories have got more chance of doing that because they get rid of Theresa May, they put somebody in who is a Remainer, and then they offer another opportunity.
That's one way it might happen.
We shall see. Dan, thanks for your call. We're going to take more calls. 08717 22 3344. Nobody seems to know what on earth is going on. We're waiting to hear from Theresa May.
I do.
She's not expected. You do not know what's going on at all. In fact, you know less about what's going on now that you haven't any sleep than you normally do.
Excuse me, I'm not commenting on that. Just
don't comment on it then. This is talkSPORT.
Hey! The sun goes down like a bad dream.
OK, this is the Two Mics, of course. We are on talkSPORT, of course, and we are, of course, with Wix. Right now, there's a 3 for 2 across gardens and landscaping, including all decking and wood care.
We got loads of calls to take, and we shall be taking them very shortly. 08717 22 3344. We're going to talk to Paddy Ashdown in a little while. We're going to talk to a few other big guests as well. Here's one from Lee who says on the tweets at the Two Mics, we can't renegotiate Brexit as Article 50 has been triggered. You planks. Now, there's no need for that sort of language. Well, what I can tell you, though, is that everything is up for grabs. Everything is now renegotiable because everything has changed. And so the idea that somehow everything's the same, despite the fact that Theresa May has lost her majority, it means that nothing is the same anymore.
She's going to visit the Queen today. Now, we have a text here. I'm afraid the author of it has not put his name on it, but it says, or her name on it, Theresa May cannot resign until she has done the Queen's speech. If she resigns before then, Jeremy Corbyn will get the opportunity to do so. Means
that Jeremy Corbyn gets to have the Queen's speech, basically.
Yes, exactly, to maybe accept the offer from the Queen to form a government. May has to go, but can't until the Queen's speech. I'm not sure that's technically right, but I mean, but it does illustrate the somewhat confused state that we're in because we haven't got a government at the moment. When an election is called, as you know, Parliament is dissolved.
Well, what basically happens is the party with the largest number of votes, i.e. the Conservatives, has to try, if it doesn't have enough to form a government on its own, to form a coalition with somebody, which is going to get back into the DUP, which is what we understand is happening. She goes to the Queen, says, I want to form a government. Queen says, go ahead. And then suddenly that means she's won.
That's right.
So we'll see. Let's talk to Steve, who's in Huddersfield. Hi, Steve.
You all right?
Yeah, very well. What would you like to say, Steve?
Yeah, I think for the time being, May should stay on. It's probably in the best interest of the UK at the moment. But obviously her
hard Brexit plan is going to be watered down if she jumps into bed with the DUP.
Right.
I just honestly think that we've got basically a dearth of decent politicians that have common appeal on both sides, both Labour and Conservative. I think the best leaders for both parties are no longer in government, which would be David Miliband and George Osborne.
That may well be. Well, George Osborne might be regretting not actually hanging around to see what was going on, but he decided to opt out and he tried to sort of attack Theresa May from the outside. Yeah. But, I mean, the situation is not good, is it?
No, certainly isn't. And I think the last night's and this morning's election result has thrown up more questions than we already had before the general election was called.
The only problem is, Steve, with your view that Mrs. should stay. I mean, would you have said the same of David Cameron after the Brexit vote was lost, because he had actually pledged his whole government's will towards remaining in Europe, and so he had to go? Would you have said that he didn't have to go?
I would have said that it wouldn't have to go. It's not about what's best for that particular... The way I view politics, not what's best for that particular individual or party.
Yes.
It's what's best for the country.
For the country.
And at the moment, you can't have a government being run by Corbyn with a minority government that doesn't have the broad appeal of the country and a mix of 3 or 4 different parties to gain a majority.
No, I think that's absolutely right, Steve. Thank you very much indeed for your call. The other problem, of course, is that I don't believe that Theresa May being in charge of the country is necessarily the best thing either, because in the end she's proven herself to be a terrible leader, somebody who doesn't have the ability to get anything sort of pushed over the line. If she gets into bed with Arlene Foster and the DUP, she's apparently already said that she's not for a hard Brexit. She doesn't want a hard border across Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland either. Let's talk to Henry, who supports Theresa May. Henry, very good morning to you.
I don't support Theresa May. I did not vote Conservative. I actually voted Liberal Democrat.
Really?
Although I happen to be in a seat where, frankly, it's got a large Conservative majority and it didn't actually matter very much. The fact remains that Theresa May got 59 more MPs than the Labour Party. And for the Labour Party to then come on the TV and say that they want to form a minority government, it's frankly fantasy.
Yeah, it is. I agree. It is. Yeah.
Well, it is, but it's. I mean, that's
politicking.
the new politics is the sort of, you make your own truth and see whether anybody goes along with it.
Sure, but the fact remains that the Conservative Party are not turkeys, and turkeys do not vote for Christmas.
Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true.
And the fact remains that the Conservatives, whether it be initially under Theresa May or whether it be perhaps in a few months or a year or so under somebody else, will cobble together, because if you don't hang together, you hang separately.
So do you think Theresa May should step aside, or do you think she should carry on?
There's actually no reason for her to step aside, and to have an election for leader of the Conservative Party now, with Boris Johnson and no doubt 1 or 2 other idiots jumping in, would actually lead to instability within the country.
Yeah, but what about her retaining the confidence and the respect of her own cabinet? When you're sitting in that cabinet room...
59 more MPs.
Yeah, I know she has, but she had a lot more in the bag in the predictions before the election than 59, and she's lost them.
Well, she's gone backwards, hasn't she?
Yeah, of course she has. Yeah,
gone backwards, Henry. That's the point.
And did she make a mistake by calling the election?
Well, of course she did.
Yeah. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You make mistakes, you pay for them in politics. And I think David Cameron, the one thing you can say about David Cameron is he realised he made a terrible mistake and he didn't have any hesitation in saying, I've got to pay for it.
Yeah, what he didn't do, Henry, was to say, I think for the sake of the country and the stability of the country, I better stay on. Here's one from Ray in Belfast who said, God help us all if the DUP get involved. I live in Belfast and they couldn't organise anything in a brewery, as you might say. The Tories are bad enough on their own, as they have initially caused all this chaos. Well, that's right. And so without really knowing too much about the DUP, other than what we're being told, that they don't like the idea of a border across the the 6 counties and the rest of Ireland,
yes.
and they also don't like the idea of a hard Brexit, that's going to have an effect on what Theresa May is able to negotiate whenever she goes to Europe.
It certainly is.
It's not right.
Yeah.
And it is not good.
Not at all.
We'll take more of your calls,
Henry,
of course.
thank you.
08717223344. Robbie says this: the worst Tory government for years, and Labour still couldn't win. Shows how bad things are. G-Man says, any chance of congratulating Jeremy Corbyn on his successful campaign? Imagine if the man had got a fair deal from the mainstream. I presume he means the mainstream media.
Yeah, so.
Congratulating him on his successful campaign is one thing, but he hasn't won anything. So,
no.
I mean, while he's actually done a lot better than anybody thought he would do, I'm not sure what you're congratulating him for.
There's a few tweets and messages here, Mike, from people who said that they stayed up through the night to hear the election campaign, but when they realised it was all over, they went to bed about 5:15.
Right.
They've just woken up on their couches, and we're still with them.
Well, indeed. And also, it wasn't all over at 5:15, was it?
Well, I mean, as far as they were concerned, they weren't getting any more information after 5:15. It was a hung parliament.
Yeah.
So they dropped off to sleep on the couch, woke up, and we're still here.
Yes.
We haven't actually been doing it all the way through.
No, that's
true.
true.
We took a 4-hour break.
We did take a 4-hour break. Chris says, looking after Porky for so many hours must be hard work. Hasn't been that bad, actually.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
How about this from Billy? The radio station is called talkSPORT, so let's talk about sport instead of this election rubbish.
Yes.
Well, it's quite important rubbish, actually, Billy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what sport you want to talk about, but by all means ring me up and tell me what sport you'd like to talk about, because I don't think it's any more exciting than this particular sport, which is what is going to happen next with Theresa May, Downing Street and Europe.
And team leaders.
Indeed. We're the two mics. This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics. Coming up a little bit later on, of course, we will be looking ahead to the Scotland-England game.
We certainly will.
Hampden Park, which is kicking off at 5 o'clock. The Porky Quiz is going to be on that very subject, various different matches between the two nations.
Yes.
Right now, though, time to talk to a man who knows an awful lot about the shenanigans going on within the Westminster corridors. It is, of course, David Wooding, who is the political editor of The Sun on Sunday. Dave, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike and Mike.
Yeah, hi, Dave.
Well, I mean, this has all turned out slightly more complicated than everybody thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah, it was all so simple, wasn't it? She was going to win by a landslide, and then the polls told us, well, it might not be as big a landslide as we thought. And then what happens, as they've been telling us for decades, the only poll that counts is the one that happens on the election day.
That's right. Dave, I haven't asked anybody this yet because I wasn't sure if anybody would know, but who would have advised Mrs May, from your knowledge of political circles, to have gone to the country? She said when she became Prime Minister she would not be seeking a general election to seek her own mandate, and then she changed her mind. So what happened?
Yes, well, it is the case that lots of MPs and lots of ministers and also lots of newspapers were saying, she'd be barking mad not to go to the country,
right,
because the polls against Jeremy Corbyn, who we all underestimated, it has to be said,
yes,
and thought that Jeremy Corbyn was unelectable, and that she'd be mad not to go. It's difficult to know who actually gave her the final call, but she does only have a very, very small circle of trusted people. So it's probably the finger's being pointed at Nick Timothy, one of her Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Yeah.
He was the man who advised her to do this, what was the dementia tax.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she will have spoken to Linton Crosby, her pollster, who will have showed her that the polls were in her favour.
Yeah.
But the thing is, remember Gordon Brown in 2007?
Yes, of course.
He hesitated, and people said to him if he'd gone, he would have increased his majority.
Yeah.
Of course, he didn't go, and perhaps we have a little bit of an explanation as to why he wobbled at that time and didn't do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And while some of the newspapers maybe underestimated Jeremy Corbyn's appeal to sections of the populace, did they not also overestimate Theresa May's likeability? Because it doesn't seem like an awful lot of people like her, and we were hearing stories that she was one of the most popular prime ministers of all time. It just didn't really ever seem to sort of ring true with me.
No, this is true. This was in political circles have known her for many years as a backbench MP, then becoming a shadow minister, becoming Home Secretary, and we know what she's like. She is not a very warm person, or does not come over as warm in the way that Jeremy Corbyn showed a bit of style, pizzazz. quite avuncular, looked quite likeable. She's quite a bit shy and is not very good at coming forward. And of course, in her year as Prime Minister, she didn't say very much. And I think a lot of people quite liked that, because after the showman, David Cameron, and of course the showman, two prime ministers behind him, of Tony Blair, they quite liked the idea of a serious person who just got on with the job and wasn't on the TV every 5 minutes. Of course, we all knew that the reason TV every 5 minutes was because she isn't very good at it, and she's not very good at giving interviews. She doesn't depart from the set text very well. She's not a good ad-libber. So, of course, when she was put in the cut and thrust of a general election where she's out there day in, day out, doing platforms, TV interviews, newspaper interviews, radio interviews, she was exposed for what she was, and people perhaps saw a glimpse of this more than they did, and were not as impressed.
No, it's absolutely right. Now, David, more years ago than we care to remember, you and I were dodging petrol bombs in Toxteth. And the reason there were riots in Toxteth was because of a band of youthful people who felt unwanted and displaced by society. They chose to riot. But on this occasion, that youthful block of people who felt that they were being ignored by politicians and couldn't get on the property ladder and didn't have great job prospects chose to vote. Is that a fair analogy?
I think that's good, and it's great that people are engaged, and the young people are out, celebrating. There are stories yesterday about students in university towns queuing up polling stations. It's brilliant. And who is it? Who has inspired them? A 67-year-old man.
Yes.
I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It just is incredible, and credit to Jeremy Corbyn for doing that. He's re-engaged a whole generation of people in politics. I think also feeding into that, it's not just Jeremy Corbyn. I think Brexit was something that young people who traditionally don't vote in as big numbers as older people felt a little bit aggrieved at Brexit, because by and large they are of the left and also feel Europe is a different thing. This is why the IRA didn't work. Yeah. A lot of the IRA stories about Jeremy Corbyn's links with the IRA, and while in my view this is a bad thing for him, it didn't have any impact, because anybody under the age of 35 only remembers the peace process at best, and for him as being a statesman rather than as a man who was consorting with terrorists. So that didn't work. So I think the young people are seeing things in a different way, perhaps in the way our parents told us, don't mix with Germans, we don't like Germans, because they remember the war, and we all think, well, Germans are nice people, they're our friends now. Yeah. So it's a whole generational thing. Yeah. So it's Brexit and youth has all played into this.
And does that also account for the collapse of the vote for UKIP, which did go in different directions, of course? The Tories expected it all to go to them. We're just watching a press conference right now with Paul Nuttall. He's resigning as UKIP leader. I mean, they had a terrible time, didn't they?
Yeah, he did. And this is a desperate night for UKIP. They've lost their only MP. They've now lost their leader, and they may be even losing Brexit, because clearly we're not going to get the full-on Brexit that we were expecting. Things are going to change a little bit. I do find it quite nice that we're hearing conciliatory noises from Brussels. Yeah. And we were all being told beforehand that Theresa May not getting a big mandate would make it difficult for her to go in with this power to negotiate. It seems to have calmed the temperature down a little bit in the rhetoric that was flying back and forth between Brussels and London. So hopefully, one extreme way of looking at it is that Brexit is finished now. Yeah. Another way of looking at it...
Oops, he seems to have lost Dave there.
We might try and get him back.
Yeah, OK. But funny enough, it was coming to the point, Mike, that you've been banging on about since last night. You think Brexit might now be finished? Well,
I mean, it certainly might now be interrupted if it's not at least halted for a while, and it may well be that we end up coming back for another go round.
That's right.
People are tweeting in saying, "Oh, you can't just do away with it because people have voted to leave the European Union."
Yeah.
Well, everything's up for grabs now. Everything is now reset, and not everything is necessarily going to remain as it was. I think we got David back. Sorry, David, you were saying the extreme view might be that that's the end of Brexit, but Theresa May's going to see the Queen in a couple of hours, or maybe less. She's going to form a new government, albeit with the help of the DUP. Is she going to last, though? I guess is the question.
Well, it's going to be difficult for her to limp on. She went in there asking for a bigger majority, and she hasn't got one. She's got a smaller one. Well, she hasn't got one at all. So, she's a massively weakened Prime Minister. She's been held below the waterline, and I think we'll probably have another election within the next few months, perhaps.
Really? And what about the Boris Johnson factor in that?
Well, there's an opportunity here for a leadership challenge, certainly. The question is how it plays out. People will be talking, senior Tories will be chatting among themselves, and they're a very ruthless party. They're not like the Labour Party, who when Gordon Brown was struggling, Ed Miliband was struggling, or even Jeremy Corbyn was struggling. The Labour Party are very good at chopping their heads off lame duck leaders. But in the sense of the Tories, if they see something isn't right, the knife goes in straight between the ribs right at once, as it did with Duncan Smith. Remember, he wasn't doing very well. He never even made it to the general election. So I think perhaps there was already talk about this before the election yesterday. People were saying Theresa May had a bad election. She's not going to get that good a majority, and she certainly won't be fighting the next election. And I think that's probably true.
No, I think you're absolutely right. David, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Dave.
Political editor of The Sun on Sunday. The only reason we had young voters yesterday was because Corbyn promised them free education, says Jez in Bedworth.
He promised everybody free everything.
Well, indeed, yeah. And he can't, of course, pay for everything.
No.
David says the young people in university towns wanted their tuition fees scrapped. That's the only reason they've been engaged. Well, I mean, for whatever reason they've been engaged, that's not a bad thing, is it? Presumably you'd rather have people engaged and voting, because there's nothing worse than people complaining about the new leader that's running the country when only 60% of the people actually bother to turn out to vote.
That's right.
Absolutely shocking.
Absolutely.
Dave the Milk says, I'm calling for Corbyn to resign. Only gains because of trouncing Miliband got in 2015. Labour have actually done worse than Brown did in 2010. Well, that's the other thing. It's all about perspective, isn't it?
It's all relative as well. It's all very well saying they did worse than Brown, but it depends what the opposition have done as well.
Yeah.
And how many parties were involved. 2 or 3 parties have got wiped out in this election, never to be seen again.
And 2 or 3 big names have gone as well. Paul Nuttall there stepping down with immediate effect as the head of UKIP.
Yeah.
We lost Alex Salmond. Nick Clegg didn't get re-elected. Jane Ellison got kicked out. Angus Robertson and Ben Gummer, they all went out. Amber Rudd only just squeezed back in. We've got loads more to do. This is the Two Mics on talkSPORT with Wicks. Right now there's 3 for 2 across gardens and landscaping, including all decking and wood care. Loads of tweets coming in. Here's one from Scott who wants to have a go at me. He says, for heaven's sake, MG, you're a joke, mate. Brexit was democratically voted in. What do you want now? Best of 3, this country is finished. It's not what I want, Scott. It's what the electorate want, and the fact that it's all been blown up by Theresa May, who doesn't seem to have known quite what she was doing.
That's right. Very good one here from Oliver. He says, hi, guys, do you realise the Conservative Party is absolutely ruthless at getting rid of leaders who don't perform or are perceived to be lame ducks? Yeah, I am, actually. Yeah. That is exactly what they do, and that's why I think that I think she's on very sticky ground, and I think that the best political option, I suppose, for the Tories. I mean, at the moment, you've got Jeremy Corbyn, who is a no-hoper in the eyes of everybody, including the Tory strategists, breathing down their neck. Yeah. Now, they don't want that for the next 5 years.
Well, he's not a no-hoper anymore, though.
He's not a no-hoper anymore. So what they, I think, will do is try to come to a new strategy altogether. I think that they will start thinking about whether or not they should get rid of Mrs May, put a new leader in, somebody who's more charismatic, who can match the appeal that Jeremy Corbyn clearly has with the electorate, and see if they can sort the mess out in the autumn.
Yeah, we shall see. Now, talking of cutting off your losses when they start to become a bit too large, you've been banging on about Ben Ainsley and his great big boat down in Portsmouth.
Certainly have.
For the best part of the last 6 months, right?
Longer.
And you keep telling me what a magnificent structure it is, how big the hangar is that they keep it in. Well, apparently, Great Britain are out of the America's Cup after losing to New Zealand 5-2 in the semi-final. It's all done and dusted yesterday.
I can't... what a terrible shock it was for me. About 3 or 4 years ago, I noticed right across Portsmouth Harbour from the Porgy Penthouse a structure going up. And I thought, that's great, because that's probably a new block of apartments, right on the edge of the harbour on the other side.
Yes.
Very close to the...
Spinnaker.
No, very close to the Spice Island Inn and the Still and West. When you and I were last in Portsmouth, or a couple of times ago, because we've done a show there since.
That's true.
We went about 9 o'clock at night to a lovely restaurant called the Still and West. We went upstairs. We got the last table.
That was where the Robin Schoenhofer lookalike was.
That's exactly where it was. That's right. And right across the road from there was really an empty patch of land.
Right.
Now, these huge aircraft hangar-type buildings started going up. And what they were the garages, or the hangars, for want of a better word, for these gigantic yachts. Because these yachts don't have sails in the traditional way anymore, or masts in the traditional way. They have these huge carbon fibre fins.
Well, they're all sort of catamarans, aren't they?
Yeah, they're catamarans, and they have these huge carbon fibre fins which go under the boat and all that kind of stuff. You need huge buildings to put them in. But the point is that Sir Ben Ainslie was going to lead us to glory. Now, we had every right to believe that, because in 2013, Sir Ben Ainslie was recruited by the American Oracle team when they were 8-1 down against New Zealand in the America's Cup to try and pull them round.
Right.
And they won 9-8.
And he managed to do that,
It was the greatest comeback in the history of sport, never mind sailing.
Right.
So we had every right to believe, with a genius like that leading our team, we were going to get there and do it. However, as you quite rightly say, the latest qualifying round was off Bermuda yesterday. Bermuda Sound, and I'm afraid they went out. The New Zealanders, whose team is sponsored by Emirates, the Emirates Team New Zealand, won 2 of yesterday's 3 races to complete a 5-2 victory over Land Rover BAR on the Great Sound in Bermuda in the semi-finals of the Louis Vuitton America's Cup Challenger Playoffs.
Yeah, so you can stop supporting them now and pretending you know anything about sailing.
Well,
what's the Commodore got to say about it?
Well, the Commodore will be very upset. I was walking past there once when they were taking one of the sails, as it is, their carbon fibre fins, really, off the boat, and you needed a crane about the size of the same one that built the Shard in London to get the sail off the boat. It's an incredible operation of engineering.
The technology is pretty remarkable. In fact, the New Zealand boat actually capsized, I think, on Tuesday.
It did.
Because there were very high winds.
It did. And they put it back together again, and that was the one that beat them yesterday. So that is a hell of an upset, really.
Yeah.
But
and do you know what happens now for the Kiwis? Do you know who they're going to play? What do you say? Sail off against in the final?
Well, no. Who do they?
Sweden or Japan, apparently.
Yeah. Who do they sail against in the final? Yeah, Sweden or Japan. Yeah. 2 rather unlikely sailing nations, really, aren't they?
Well, I mean, they're both on water.
Well,
aren't they?
Japan is surrounded by water.
Yeah,
it's
so is Sweden.
Sweden?
Yeah.
So it's not surrounded by water.
Well, it's got a lot of water.
It's got a lot of water.
It's got a lot of water around it.
It's got a lot of water, and it's got a few fields.
It's got the famous bridge and tunnel scenario, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's not near the water, though.
What do you mean it's not near the water? Where do you think the bridge goes?
Yeah, but I mean the open water. You can't sail your catamarans around in that quantity of water. A catamaran is an ocean-going vessel. It has to be, because it goes at about 65 miles an hour.
The bridge and tunnel is the thing that joins Sweden up with Denmark.
Yeah, I know.
What do you think separates them?
Water.
It's not a lake, is it?
Water.
It's sea.
Yeah, but they do not sail catamarans under that bridge.
I'm not suggesting they do.
Well, why do you even mention it then,
Because I'm telling you that there's a lot of water around Sweden.
Yeah, there's a lot of water around Sweden, but not under that bridge, right? Okay.
I knew you'd finally crack.
No.
Have you had any sleep at all in the last 24 hours?
You see, I'm looking at one of the reports from one of my informants.
Have another Red Bull.
It says, what BAR needed this week was a bit of luck, but they had none. A damaged wing cost them the first 2 races, but when New Zealand suffered a similar problem just before the race 3, they made the start line with moments to spare after high winds forced a delay. They had no luck at all.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And then when New Zealand capsized before race 4, high winds on Wednesday saw racing cancelled, so they had 24 hours to right the boat.
What sort of a following do you think this sport has? I mean, I don't know why you're so obsessed with it. Just because you live in Portsmouth, you quite like it. But I mean, under normal circumstances, you would not have anything to do with this kind of sport.
Well, it employs a lot of people in Portsmouth, and that it's very good for the local economy. I mean, it's a quite fantastic thing to see them, skiffing out, as they call it, onto the Solent, because they don't actually even sail on the hulls of their catamaran booms.
They just skim across the top, don't
they? They put like skis on, when you've got a bike when you're about 6
well, it's like
and you need
skiing,
stabilisers on the back.
Yeah.
No, it's like having stabilisers on your bike. And
I never had those, actually.
Hey?
I never had those.
Stabilisers?
I never had them, no.
Didn't you?
No, I just learned how to ride a bike.
Oh, good for you. You're very good at everything. I tell you
No,
what.
I'm not saying I'm very good at everything. I just said I didn't have stabilisers.
I tell you what it reminds me of. We've talked this week already about Thunderball, okay?
Yeah.
Because we talked about the lovely lady in Thunderball who sadly died, and she never acted again after being in Thunderball. Well, in Thunderball, do you remember at the end, old Largo, who is the villain, he decides... Largo is the villain.
In what film?
In Thunderball.
I don't know Thunderball that well. You were going on about it the other day.
Don't get irritated with yourself. Everybody else in the world who's listening to this show knows about Thunderball.
That's not true, no.
So what happens is at the end, Largo needs to get away. He's a horrible villain. He's got a patch over one eye, and he tortures his girlfriend by burning her with his cigar.
It's a family show, this.
Oh, I know it's a family show, only on the arm. And what happens is, he says, separate the boats. And so as they're being chased by the authorities, all of a sudden the front of the boat raises up out of the water on skis, right? What do you call them? Are they skis?
No. Well, you mean like a sort of catamaran type scenario?
No, like literally the hull lifts up onto these two water skis, okay? And then, boom, the boat separates, the back of the boat comes off, and whoosh, Largo is away.
Can I just point out that's a fictitious movie? Before we go any further.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying.
There's some breaking news here.
It's the same sort of technology. What's the breaking news?
I've been handed this piece of breaking news. Gary Monk has been offered the Middlesbrough manager's job.
Oh, right.
And apparently, we understand that Monk has been officially offered the job after several candidates were interviewed.
Yeah.
Of course, he left Leeds on the 25th of May after being unable to reach an agreement with the new owner, Andrea Radrizzani.
Yeah, now who's that news coming from?
What do you mean, who's it coming from?
Well, breaking news like that, to me, should say Gary Monk has accepted the job of coach of Middlesbrough.
Well, I've been handed it by the breaking news desk here at talkSPORT.
Yeah, sure.
Are you having a problem with that?
No, what I'm saying is this looks like it might be a bit of a, sort of move from one party or the other.
News. You want some more breaking news?
Yeah.
This one's even better.
Yeah.
Hull are delighted to announce that they have hired a new head coach.
Yes.
Do you want to know who it is?
Yes.
It's the former coach of the Russian national team, the very famous Leonid Slutsky.
No, it's
not.
It is. No, you haven't got it
right here. No, I've got it right here.
Not
46-year-old former head coach of the Russian national team, title winner with CSKA Moscow, will arrive at Hull next week, subject to international clearance.
Old Slutsky?
Yeah, he's going to join us.
So we have a Russian in the Premiership.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. This is talkSPORT. Good morning, I'm Mike Graham. He's Mike Parry. You're listening to the two Mikes on talkSPORT. Alex McLeish is going to join us coming up a little bit later on in this hour. Former Scotland defender, of course, and manager. He's going to tell us what chance Scotland have got. Slim to none, I would have thought, against England coming up at the weekend. A lot of my friends in Scotland are actually saying they're scared it might be a bit of an embarrassment, to be honest. We're also going to talk about the 100 greatest films ever made. Paddy Ashdown's going to be on the show as well. And it's Porky quiz time as well. And that's going to be on the Scotland-England game too. You're listening to the two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on talkSPORT. Couple of tweets here for you, Porky. Michael says this: can Porky please disclose to the listeners how many cans of Red Bull he's consumed in the last 24 hours?
None.
And there's a couple of pictures of a bucket load of Red Bull being delivered into the studio. A couple of people are pointing out that you may have missed the fact that Hull were relegated.
Well, I knew that. Of course I did.
Porky, you are aware Hull were relegated, so we won't have, as you put it, a Russian in the Premiership.
No.
It's not called the Premiership anymore either, by the way.
The Premier League.
Francis says, no, they don't have a Russian in the Premiership. Hull got relegated. Have a word with the plank.
Yeah, no.
MG.
Listen, the technology of radio is such that just as I corrected myself, I'm afraid that we went off air and you weren't able to hear my correction. But I was very aware of that within half a second of me saying it.
Gabriel says this: so Great Britain still hasn't won the America's Cup. Hardly going to impact the working man's everyday life, that is it? Millionaires don't win a big cup.
Well, it's not that. It's a bit of national pride. It's the fact that one of Britain's most successful companies, BAR Land Rover, well, I mean, it's a pseudo-British company, isn't it?
BAR Land Rover?
Yeah, it's,
What's the BAR bit for?
I don't know.
Well, that's not Land Rover then, is it?
Yeah, it is.
It's some other Ersatz Land Rover.
Eh?
It's Jaguar Land Rover, the company in Britain, isn't it?
No, this is...
What's BAR Land Rover?
What?
What's BAR Land Rover?
Let me have a look. Land Rover BAR
won
one of the 3 races yesterday, but the New Zealand boat, which had been a wreck when it capsized 2 days ago, Could be the best one in Bermuda. They were unlucky to come up against it. Do you know why? Do you know why they won? By the way, because the captain of the New Zealand boat,
they went round the circuit faster.
They went in straight lines faster.
Yeah.
The turning is obviously very important, especially in a catamaran, because that's when they capsized because they went too far over degree-wise, angle-wise.
Is that right?
But the reason they won is because the skipper of the New Zealand boat very cleverly decided, for years we've seen these guys on board these boats who have pulleys in their hands, and they're pumping them one way or the other to get the sail up and down.
That's the way of winching the sail up and down. It's called a winch.
That's exactly
it's not
right.
A pulley.
That's exactly right. But guess what?
Yeah.
The guy from New Zealand is brighter, smarter than the average bear.
Is he?
He replaced the hand winches.
Yeah.
With bicycle sit-down winches.
Oh, yes, you're doing with your feet.
And they went twice as fast.
Uh-huh.
And that gave them the distinct advantage on the straight to get the boat...
But then presumably you have to sit on something in order to make that work, which you can't always do if you're at an angle, can you?
Well, you can on the straight. That's what I'm saying. When they're turning, obviously they tip over and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, they will have sort of safety harness type features.
Well, they
won't
would. But what I'm saying is
stop them falling out of the boat.
But nevertheless, but if you have to sit on something which is perching you above the actual deck,
I agree.
That's going to be difficult.
I agree. But as I say, it's a bit like the analogy to motor racing would be on the straight. When the cars get up to over 200 miles an hour, the Mercedes has got that extra bit of punch against a Ferrari or something like that, and that's apparently what happened. So that is a terrible shame.
I don't understand why we're still talking about this.
Well, because I said it was Land Rover BAR, and you asked me what BAR stood for, and I had to tell you that I don't know.
You don't know.
But that's the sponsor's name, so that's all I can tell you. It'll be delightful to see the old Leonid Slutsky. To come to the championship and to work and see England, okay?
Why are you talking German?
No, sorry, yeah. But
you're, of course, famous for your connections with the Kremlin and types from that part of the world.
Not the Kremlin.
Yeah, you are.
No. I've met people from there in the past.
Well, you've had, shall we say, associations with people from inside that part of the world.
I certainly have. People who used to work in the Black Lubyanka, just off Red Square there, in the days when it was the Soviet Union, and it really was. An iron curtain that separated it from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
A fascinating country. Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I've never been there. I wouldn't mind going.
When we were doing the election coverage overnight, at one stage somebody said, we've got Peter Hitchens coming up next on some other channel or something. And it was...
Well, it was Paul Ross, actually.
It was all Paul Ross.
On Talk Radio.
Oh, that's right. Peter Hitchens down on the tent today.
Well, he was down at the tent on Westminster Green. Julie Hartley-Brewer's on there at the moment.
That's right, yeah. Peter Hitchens was the reason I went there, because we installed him as the Daily Express Moscow correspondent.
Yes.
And, we had to go through all sorts of hoops to get him an office and somewhere to live and all that kind of stuff, and talking to the mayor of Moscow and all that. But it was a very, very exciting period of our newspaper
I'm sure it was.
careers.
And presumably quite a corrupt period as well.
Well, the only way you got anything done in Russia was to incentivise people to get it done by giving them loads of American dollars.
Yes.
If you went into a bar in a hotel, you could only drink champagne if you paid an American dollar a time for a glass, which was about 100 rubles in exchange.
Yes.
So they're very wealthy people.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, coming up very shortly, we're going to talk to Alex McLeish, who's, of course, played for Scotland. He's managed Scotland. He's a top man.
Managed Rangers.
What do you think he's going to say about Harry Kane and the captaincy of the England team? Because a lot of people are saying, you know what, this is really a difficult game for England in the sense that they're expected to win it. They probably will win it. Yeah. It's not really going to do Gareth Southgate much good. He's not going to find much out about his team.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Scotland are worried it's going to be an absolute disaster and a kind of embarrassment. But Harry Kane doesn't seem to be too sure of whether he wants to be captain or not.
I think he was being very diplomatic. He's still only 23, and when asked, do you fancy it, all he said was, look, I want to do the very best I can for England. He said, if you're a kid growing up and you've got an ambition to be a footballer, then presumably when you're kicking a ball around as a kid, you want to be captain of England. Yeah. So he said it would be a tremendous honour. But he did then, toe the party line, which Gareth Southgate has clearly instilled in his squad. That's why he took him off to Lympton in Devon to run around the Marines training course. We need lots of leaders in this squad. We have lots of leaders in this squad.
But do they have lots of leaders in the squad? I mean, one of the leaders that should be in the squad, you might say, is Wayne Rooney. Whether or not you think he should be playing, he's certainly a leader as a figurine, isn't he?
Yes, I would say he is, but I think, you've got to give Gareth Southgate the responsibility and the right to say, despite his leadership qualities, I could see no reason for including him in a fairly tight squad because I didn't think I would be able to play him.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, we'll find out what Alex McLeish has to say about that. It is international break time, and also because it's so late in the season, it's difficult for the players, isn't it? I mean, I heard Ray Wilkins this morning admonishing Max Rushton by saying to him, well, of course players are going to be motivated to play because they're playing for their country, and they're playing for the right to then go and take part in a World Cup final situation. So there's no problem motivating them. But surely this late in the season, they could be.
That's right. I've got something astonishing to tell you later on in the show.
Have you?
Do you know that, and I'll go into it in more detail.
Sorry, was I boring you with that earlier conversation? You seem to have jumped about and start talking about something completely different.
Don't worry, I absorb things very quickly. I am smarter than the average bear.
So you say.
No, for the first time ever, men are buying more shoes than women.
Is that right?
Isn't that amazing? I mean, for most of my life, I only had one pair of shoes.
Right. Well, you've only got one pair of shoes now.
No. I only wear one pair of shoes.
No, but you buy the same pair over and over again.
No, I don't. No, I don't. No, you've seen. I've got my desert boots on today. My black desert boots.
Desert boots? What, the ones you bought from Sainsbury's?
It's
not exactly,
right,
get some onions, some potatoes, a bit of Angel Delight and a pair of shoes.
Well, I did. I saw them there and I thought I'll be opportunist and get them. Yeah. And it would save me having to go to a shoe shop and get them there, wouldn't it? But the point is that men are now buying pair after pair after pair of shoes.
Really?
And I'm the same. I've got now far too many shoes for my shoe racks.
Are you telling me you're the Imelda Marcos of
Well, I'm not the Imelda Marcos, but I'm thinking of throwing a few out because it's becoming embarrassing, the number of shoes that my housekeeper has to store, one on top of the other, against the wall of my second bathroom.
Have you not got one of those things you put all the shoes in?
No.
It's the sort of thing you would have.
No.
Where you hang inside the wardrobe.
And then you press a button and they rotate round and you pick your pair of shoes for the day.
No, you don't have to rotate them. But it's a sort of like a hanging cloth, a sort of shelving unit almost.
Do you know how many men's... No, I haven't got one of those, sorry.
No.
Right, do you know how...
I need to apologise.
Do you know the worth of the men's shoe market was in 2016?
I don't know, 4 billion.
No, 14.5 billion.
What?
14.5 billion.
What, in Britain?
Hey?
In Britain?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, the menswear market in the UK is estimated to have grown by 2.8% in 2016 to have hit £14.5 billion, more than twice the 1.3% rise seen in the women's market, okay?
And the women's market's worth what?
Quite a lot more than the men's, but it's the gap between the two is narrowing so quickly.
Right,
so
okay.
quickly.
Well, you got it wrong, basically.
No, I haven't got it wrong.
Right, look at the time because we've run out of it as usual.
Women's
Alex McLeish is coming up. We'll ask him what sort of shoes he's buying lately, shall we?
27.25 billion.
Yeah,
that's women's shoes. Pounds.
Sport.
Yeah.
Several people pointing out that there's no great mystery about the BAR at the end of Land Rover.
Ben Ainsley Racing, isn't it?
Ben Ainsley Racing.
Yeah.
Which, of course, you are much of a plank about.
I don't think so. Now, John here says, Porky, you clearly go through pairs of shoes these days, even quicker than you do tyres. That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
That is a bit harsh.
Now, can I just remind you, please?
Please do.
Sorry?
Please do.
Would you mind not interrupting?
Sorry.
Could I just remind you, please, this is the Two Mics, of course. We are, of course, on talkSPORT, and delighted to say we are with Wix. Right now, there's 3 for 2 across gardens and landscaping, including all decking and wood care. Right, there we go.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, the big game coming up at the weekend, of course, Scotland against England. It's at Hampden Park. There are lots of people in Scotland who are not looking forward to it because Gareth Southgate's team have been training with the Marines. They've been doing all sorts of bonding exercises and all the rest of it. And Scotland, even as Gordon Strachan would admit, are not exactly in the form of their lives. Let's talk to Alex McLeish, who has run a very successful Scottish team, very successful Rangers team as well, and a former player. Alex, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, Mike and Mike.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
A couple of my mates up in Scotland have said, we're a bit worried about this game because, Scotland really haven't got it at the moment, and even Gordon Strachan would probably admit he's got a tough one.
Well, I think the last game gave them a bit of confidence. You're getting the last-minute winner, through Chris Martin, and they go into this game with a wee bit more confidence. If they'd lost that game or drawn that game even, it would probably have been even worse mentality-wise. But it is a huge game. It's against our old rivals, and it is one that we don't win very often, but there does come a time when we can surprise everybody, and hopefully this is the day. But we need to perform in a really ferocious way. I don't mean kicking lumps out of England, but I mean in a controlled aggression manner, and everybody has to raise their game to a level where they've never been before.
That's right. Now, Alec, you've done this job that Gordon Strachan, your good friend, is doing. We saw Gordon up at Hampden in the semi-final of the Cup, the Rangers-Celtic one. He was incredibly laid back about what's expected of him because I think everybody accepts that there are only limited resources to call upon in Scotland, and when you can't make it work, you have nowhere to go, do you? Because A, it is a small country with a small league, but B, the players like Souness and Dalglish and yourself just aren't being produced these days.
Oh, thanks for giving me a mention there, Mike.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it has become very difficult, with the Bosman era came in, and then most of the players we were choosing for internationals were coming from the Championship and indeed Scotland. As you know, the level had gone down a fair bit. But in recent times, we've got a few players in the Premier League now. Maybe not with the top teams, but we do have guys who are going head-to-head with the Dele Allis, the Harry Kanes, who were in phenomenal form at the end of the season, let's face it. We go into the game not as favourites. What do we have to lose? Gordon hopefully will have a rigid defence. We don't want to make any silly mistakes that we have done in some of the recent games. Just when we've looked as if we're going to get a famous victory against Poland, then we blow it. So he's going to have to rely on brilliant defending, but also on real concentration and a little bit of inspiration from the guys in the forward areas.
I mean, if there isn't a points tally that comes out of this game, Alex, is this the end for Scotland as far as qualification goes? I mean, is this their last chance to at least keep themselves in the hunt, if you like?
I think that if they lose it, there's so much of a carve-up in this group that I don't think Scotland are totally out of it. But the victory would give us enormous confidence, and it would certainly frighten Slovakia and Slovenia, who I think are now the nearest rivals. Lithuania still probably take a point or two off some of the teams, which we hope not Scotland. So they'll be harbouring the thoughts that if Scotland get beat, they're right back in the mix, and it's still open. If Scotland win it, then it's a big blow to those two teams. So I think we're still in it, and I don't think there's a lot of people expect us to beat England, but because let's face it, look at their tournament record over the last 2 or 3 years. It is frightening. I don't think they've lost a game, but
34
lose a game.
games. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Someday England will lose a game in a group stage, and hopefully it can be tomorrow, the 10th of June.
Yeah, well, that's obviously your hope. Now, whatever happens, there's good... Yes, exactly. Yeah, sorry. No, sorry, I wasn't being dismissive there. I was saying there's a Scotsman.
Sounded a bit like it, to be honest.
No, I wasn't, no. Now, at some stage, of course, there's going to be a new Scotland manager, and the Times newspaper, The Thunderer, this week have focused on David Moyes. Now, Davy Moyes, obviously, we know the travails that he's suffered since he left Everton. If he rang you up tomorrow, Alex, and asked you about the Scottish national team coach's job, what would you tell him?
Who, David Moyes?
Yes.
Well, I think there's not much I think I would need to tell David about the whole situation. He's got some good players at his disposal, and can David rouse it up any more than Gordon can? Does a new face help? Gordon has got a good rapport with these guys. He's got a nucleus that he really trusts, and now he's adding some players who have made a breakthrough this season. Let's face it, Ryan Fraser has had a brilliant season with Bournemouth, almost like a breakthrough season. So I don't think he's frightened of an England challenge. He would go at the defenders, he would work hard back the way. So that's the type of player and performance and mentality that Gordon needs in this game tomorrow. And I think speculation about Gordon losing the job is something that I don't really like discussing.
No, I don't blame you. No, I don't blame you. And I didn't mean to, put the hexus on it. But I mean,
to be fair, he was joking with us. In fact, when we saw him up in Glasgow, that he might be joining us in the halftime bar actually, because he said things won't be going so badly in the first half that I'll already be taking my leave of the place.
To keep a bit of sanity about.
Well, you do, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, does it sadden you a little bit, Alex, that the fixture has become so unimportant in a way when it used to be so important? I was looking at a spread in one of the papers a few days ago with some pictures of some of the more famous encounters. Your picture was in one of them, and it was great tussles going on, fantastic kind of, aggressive behaviour and all of that. But it's all kind of disappeared now.
Yeah, it disappeared, with the home internationals fading out of existence. And the fact that we're only meeting each other in major tournaments, it kind of makes it, a little bit more extra special when you consider that it really, home internationals, it was just a kind of, it wasn't a world-renowned trophy. It certainly was in the UK. We loved the fact that we could beat England now and again, and England, the Alan Ball years, and these guys that liked to rub you up the wrong way. These were brilliant encounters. We had a brilliant rivalry. It's still that rivalry with us, but England probably, on average, will win 3 out of 5 games, or maybe 4 out of 5, and let's face it, they do have magnificent quality there, and it's up to Gareth Southgate now. It's his job to get that quality out of that team, a particular group of players that he's got at this moment.
Sure. And to make it work once he gets to Russia as well, into the finals. That's Alex, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Alex. Always great to talk to you.
It was very, very fair on anyone that's working for Scotland, anyone involved in it.
Yeah.
Neil says this: Stockholm is on the Baltic Sea, you plank, Porky. Just talking about their ability to get into water around Sweden.
I know that, and people have misheard me or are misrepresenting me. I didn't say that Sweden didn't have access to a great deal of water. I said not the bit of water that goes under the bridge. It's too narrow.
No, of course.
Yeah,
absolutely right. This is talkSPORT.
I'm going slightly mad.
This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics. Coming up a little bit later on in the show, it's Porky quiz time, of course. Last week we did have a bit of a breach of security, and Porky somehow got his hands and his eyes on the questions.
I did not.
I
resent that, and I deny it absolutely.
Well, you can deny it as much as you like. Everybody's watched it on Facebook, and we'll be putting this one out on Facebook Live as well, by the way, so that people can see the difference, because there was absolutely no hesitation in your answers. There was no thinking aloud.
That's because I was an expert on the subject.
Beating about the bush. You were absolutely in command of what was going on, because you'd seen the questions. And as soon as you were presented with a question which you hadn't seen, which was question 10, you had no idea.
And how did I get access to these questions?
Well, I've no idea. I don't know how you did it.
Well, I didn't.
I don't know how you did it, but you certainly did something. So
this
week,
resent you, this week, really stripping my character to the bone
this week,
by saying that sort of
thing.
What
we're going to be doing is making sure that there is extra security on the questions. And as far as I'm aware, they haven't even been delivered yet to the studio. So you should not have had any opportunity to look at them.
Okay, there's a laughable communication here from somebody called Martin.
Oh, yeah.
He says, Porky seriously flagging now, MG showing superior stamina.
Well, that comes as no surprise to anyone.
That's rubbish.
I've
never flagged in my life, despite the fact that only 1/3 of my heart works.
Yeah.
I pride myself on my determination and ability to get through a long
Well, so
period.
far you've insulted Alex McLeish. You've claimed that Sweden's not near any water.
How did I insult Alex McLeish?
Well, you were sort of very dismissive of his role in previous England-Scotland encounters.
Rubbish.
And he picked you up on that.
No, he didn't. And I in fact, I praised him for being alongside greats like Dalglish and
very
Hansen.
good of you.
Now then, listen.
How about this from Adrian?
Yeah,
my housekeeper has too many shoes to store in the wardrobe of my second bedroom. Man of the people.
Yeah, I didn't actually say that.
Yeah,
if you'd have listened, look, if you want to pick me up on things, I don't mind. But do get it right. I said on the shoe racks in my second bathroom. I didn't say anything about a second bedroom.
Second bathroom.
Yes, that's
my
right.
apologies.
Yeah, just
you have got
right.
a second bedroom now, haven't you?
Yes, of course I have.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Right, now then, I tell you... Sorry, what's your problem?
I think...
Yeah. Right, now then, what I want to tell you about is the world's 100 best films, according to a new poll.
Well, I was telling you, I've seen 93 of them.
Yeah, I don't believe that, because I'm going to run through a few of them.
Yeah, go on then.
Right, now, The Godfather has been voted the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah.
1970 film made by Francis Ford Coppola, the mafia epic, topped a poll of... Is that Godfather 1? That's the first one.
That would be Godfather 1, yeah.
I would go for Godfather 2, personally, but there we go. Old favourites, Casablanca, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
did not make the top 10.
No.
But the full list is printed in Empire magazine, to give them their credit. Now, the point is that although they say Godfather has been voted the greatest, I think I'm right in saying that image that accompanies it is from Godfather 2, isn't it?
No, that's the end. That's the final image at the end of the first Godfather
Are you sure?
film. I'm pretty sure.
I thought that was the wedding in the second film, when
the wedding's in the first film.
The wedding's in the first film, that's right. Yeah, it is. But, I mean, Michael Corleone looked very much like that all the way through the second film, didn't he?
He did.
Because he matured into
the closing scene
capo
of the first movie is him sitting in the chair and people sort of coming in to kiss his hand, and the door closes, and that's when you realise that he's made the transformation from, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed army kid
to capo.
Capo de tutti capo.
Capo de tutti capo.
You know what I mean?
Right, OK, so I'm going to ask you how many you've seen of the top 10, OK?
OK.
Right, The Godfather.
Seen it.
Empire Strikes Back.
Seen it.
The Dark Knight.
Seen it.
Shawshank Redemption.
Seen it.
Pulp Fiction.
Seen it.
Goodfellas.
Seen it.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Seen it.
Jaws.
Seen it.
Star Wars.
Seen it.
Lord of the Rings.
Seen it.
Oh,
you have to go all the way back. I'll tell you how far back you have to go before
Yep.
you find one I haven't seen.
Yep.
Number 41.
41.
Which is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
What, is that some sort of a joke film?
Well, I don't think it's a joke film. It sounds like a very serious film. Possibly a foreign language film.
Have you seen 42, There Will Be Blood?
Yes.
Is that Daniel Day-Lewis?
I can't remember
It
who
was
that
about
is.
the Texas oil fields, wasn't there? Fighting each other?
Yeah, There Will Be Blood. Yes, that's right.
Well,
the next one I haven't seen is Whiplash.
What number?
Number 57.
57, Whiplash. Right. Now, what's that about?
Don't know. I haven't seen it.
Let me see. Yeah, that's right, yeah. No. Yeah, but it sounds like it might be about, somebody getting their neck broken or something.
Well, it might be. I've no idea.
Okay.
Next one I haven't seen is Memento, number 67.
67, I don't even know that. I've never heard of that.
71, Hot Fuzz, which was a British film.
Fuzz.
It's a British film, which I know about, but I haven't seen.
Oh, I've seen that, funny enough. That's a comedy based on a police situation.
Yeah, it's a bit like Life on Mars or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
next one I haven't seen is Old Boy, number 78.
78, Old Boy, don't know anything about it.
No, and then Spirited Away, number 80.
80.
No idea.
Spirited Away. Oh, I thought you meant it was Spirited Away at number 80, but it's called Spirited Away.
No, it's called Spirited Away. You've got the list.
Okay. Well, I'll go from 100 back to 90. The last 10. Okay.
Okay.
Stand By Me.
Seen it.
Who's in that then?
Stand By Me is I don't know who's in it, but it's the one about the little kids who are sort of running away and they find a dead body on the railway tracks and all that.
No,
I think it might be River Phoenix.
No. Right, Raging Bull.
Raging Bull, of course, I've seen that.
Black and white film.
Yeah.
Amélie.
Amélie, I've seen it. That's a French film that came out a few years ago.
One of them, eh? One of them.
I think so.
Titanic, obviously.
Seen that, yep.
Good Will Hunting.
Yep, seen that.
Arrival.
Actually, Arrival, I'm not sure about.
What is Arrival? What was that about?
I don't think it was published after Departure.
Sorry, is that some sort of a cryptic joke?
Yeah, it is,
Yeah. I didn't get it. Right, Lost in Translation.
Lost in Translation, yes.
Now, The Princess Bride, have you seen that?
I have seen that.
I saw that. I remember I saw that in the, what's the name of the cinemas there on 3rd Avenue? Just down...
Lowe's.
I saw that in the Lowe's cinemas,
okay.
with a friend. That was great.
Oh, yeah. Which friend?
Oh, a friend. The Terminator.
Female friend?
It was a female friend.
Was it?
Yes.
The Terminator, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of my favourite films, actually.
The Prestige.
Prestige, no, I haven't seen that.
And no, okay, well, and then number 90, No Country for Old Men. Now, isn't that another Daniel Day-Lewis one as well?
I'm not sure if he's in that. It's quite violent, though.
It's quite violent, is it? Yeah. Okay, well, I've seen quite a few of these films, but I think anybody who says, I've seen 92 of the best 100 films in the world
I've seen 93
must have a
of them.
sad life.
Well, no, I've seen 93 of them.
93?
I don't think that's particularly unusual.
Would you, you see, Godfather Part 2, which I've just told you about, is actually 12th. Godfather 1. I'd have put Godfather 2 in a reverse situation.
Yeah, I mean, half 6 of one, half dozen of the other, really.
Yep.
I mean, I would not have put Alien and Aliens quite so high up, 14 and 15, or so many Lord of the Rings up there as well.
Okay.
2 Lord of the Rings films. I would have put Casablanca a bit higher up. I would have probably put The Big Lebowski a bit higher up, and Taxi Driver, and The Usual Suspects, which is brilliant.
I can't
and Schindler's List, actually.
Schindler's List, yeah. I can't find Top Gun.
Well, it won't be in there, because Top Gun's rubbish.
No, it's not. Top Gun's my favourite film ever.
I know, but
one, great film.
One, you don't know how it ends, right? Because you've described the... Yeah, I don't need you to sing me the soundtrack. Yeah, that's fine. The point is, it's not a very good film. Tom Cruise is in it, and there are hardly... I don't know if you can find a Tom Cruise film in this top 100, actually.
A new Tom Cruise film has just come out, and it's had shocking reviews.
Seven Samurai was in that, wasn't he?
The Seven Samurai?
Wasn't he in that?
Who? Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
No.
That was The Last Samurai, wasn't it?
He's in The Last Samurai. The Seven Samurai is the film that most of the spaghetti westerns starring Clint Eastwood was based on.
Well, no, it's what The Magnificent Seven was based on.
That's right, it was, yeah. Well, The Magnificent Seven, that's right. But
Seven being the clue.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still a western. It's still full of cowboys shooting each other.
That's true.
So that is the very same thing.
What are you saying about Tom Cruise's latest film?
Well, his latest film. In fact, I can tell you what it is because as being a critic of the silver screen, a critique of the silver screen, his latest film's come out, and I'm afraid that people like our very good mate Brian Viner, who is an outstanding TV reviewer, have not felt fit to give it any sort of real sort of leg up, if you know what I mean. In terms of
he's a film critic, isn't he?
He's a film critic, yeah.
He doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it. So, let me find it for you.
Well, we haven't got any time now.
Now, do you know what it's called? The Mummy.
The Mummy? Oh, yeah, I've seen adverts for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it looks a bit frightening.
It is a bit frightening. I think it's about a mummy that comes back to life. And, sorry, what's your problem? And,
well, it's not about sort of daddy daycare, is it?
No. And Brian Viner's verdict on it is...
Have you not seen the original Mummy?
Cruise control is not enough.
Oh, really?
Clever play on the words, yeah.
Have you not seen the Rachel Weisz Mummy series?
No, I haven't. No. I don't. I'm not sure. I like all that Egyptology stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. People digging themselves into pyramids and all that kind of stuff. I find it boring. I'd rather watch Top Gun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
This is talkSPORT. This is the Two Mics on talkSPORT with Wicks. Right now there's 3 for 2 across gardens and landscaping, including all decking and wood care. Now, Tanya Snuggs has just entered the studio.
Rather mysteriously. Breaking news.
Yes, good morning. Yes, it is still morning. Some breaking news to bring you. Former Sunderland manager David Moyes has been fined £30,000 for his slap comment towards a journalist in March. That's from the Football Association.
Golly.
We'll bring you more details at midday.
Oh, right, yeah. Porky Jinks has hit him, hasn't it? You were just talking about him a minute ago.
Well, I was,
he gets hit for 30 grand.
That's right,
You don't want to be too near that. Now, how about this from Jack in Middleton? Was Jack Middleton his name? He says, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a Tom Cruise film.
Oh, is it?
Which I didn't know.
Blimey, we should have known that. Now, sometimes I wonder whether the millions of listeners who tune into us each day to listen and draw knowledge are actually listening to us for the right reasons.
What do you mean?
Well, because I've got one here from a guy called Mike.
Yeah.
And he says, since when were Porky and MG listened to for anything about sense or sport?
Yeah.
The only reason I listen to them are for their views on drinking.
Really?
That's a bit dismissive.
Well, I mean, each to his own, I suppose.
Yeah.
Pete says this, Memento is a psychological thriller told backwards about a man with short-term memory loss. It's a bit like listening to Porky on the podcast. That sounds quite funny.
I can't stand complicated plots like that. I like a plot about a man in an F-111 who takes off from an aircraft carrier and his mate goes mad, he brings him down and then he becomes a hero.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
I know.
Now,
Zulu, Spencer says, what about Zulu? Why is that not in it? What sort of a list is it?
I love Zulu. Zulu's a great film.
Zulu's not in the list, though,
No,
is
it's not on the list, and it's a film of, pure British heroism. I think 7 men at Rorke's Drift won VCs in the same day. Now, another one here, talking about Top Gun. He says, do you know, Porky, that Top Gun 2 has now been given the green light? Great balls of fire.
Yeah, we did know that, I think. In fact, I think we may have announced it on our show.
I think that has been put forward 3 or 4 times now, and I have to say, it's no closer to becoming a film now than it was a year ago when we were first told about it. Okay?
Absolutely right. Eternal Sunshine is Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, says Steve. Superb.
Oh, okay.
But lots of really good memories of Memento. A lot of people saying that's very, very well worth watching. And Whiplash, apparently, is about a drummer at a music college in the US of A.
What? Sorry?
A drummer at a music college in America.
A drummer at a music college in the USA? Oh, yeah. I don't know about that.
And Crossy Lad says, Old Boy is a fantastic Korean film. Keeps you guessing all the way to the end and will blow your mind. It's a must-see.
Yeah.
Well, this is very good. So you see, we're learning something about movies we haven't seen.
We certainly are, and I very much appreciate the information supplied to us by our millions of listeners.
Spirited Away is an anime film. The director, Hayao Miyazaki, is like Japan's Walt Disney in a good way.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, listen, talking about films is one thing. Talking about books is another. Now, you told me that you're rather upset this week to learn that a chap called Ed Victor, who was described as a flamboyant party-going killer agent who dined with publishers and left them feeling as though they had mislaid an arm and a leg, has in fact died. Now, this guy was super literary agent,
He was the first kind of super literary agent. He represented people like Frederick Forsyth, Erica Jong. I think he was involved with Alistair Campbell's diaries. I mean, basically, he was the guy that you went to. He was the go-to guy if you could get him to represent you, because he was famous for, as one person described him, walking into a room full of publishers and walking out with a cheque for 10 million quid.
Right.
And he just had this incredible way about him. He was very tall, apparently.
Yes.
And a guy who just was full of compassion, full of confidence, and full of chutzpah as well. One of the things he was famous for saying, and I dare say there will be some Corbynistas out there who will say this is awful, because he was a very wealthy guy as a result of the money that he got. He had a place in East Hampton in America, which of course is on Long Island, very ritzy part of the world, and he was known to have at least 3 Bentleys. And he said,
is he British, by the way?
He's American.
He's American,
but he lived in Britain. He came to Cambridge University and lived in Britain for a long time with his first wife, and I think they then split up. He then got remarried in America and came back to live in Britain. He was based in London, and he famously used to say to people that he really looked forward to getting his winter fuel allowance from the government as a pensioner, because it was just enough money to fill the Bentley.
Well, one of the Bentleys.
One of the Bentleys, with petrol.
Well, it says here that he went. What he did was he created a huge list of celebrity authors who became friends. He went on to build up a client list of celebrated and best-selling authors whose names were always in the press, with his own name often alongside them. Alongside them. Clients became friends and friends became clients. The list came to include Iris Murdoch, obviously a best-selling author, Douglas Adams of Watership Down fame, Jack Higgins. Do you ever read Jack Higgins' books?
I don't think I've ever read one, no.
Jack Higgins wrote The Eagle Has Landed.
Right.
And that was the fantastic book about the plot by the elite German squad to murder Winston Churchill on a visit to Ireland.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it was turned into a film.
I've seen the film.
Exactly. It's fantastic, fantastic film and book. Douglas Adams, Jack Higgins, Annie Robinson, of course, one of the wealthiest ex-journo friends of ours.
Indeed.
Very, very
but that's because
successful.
Of her television success rather than her book
but I mean, on the back of that, she did write some very best-selling books.
Yeah.
And guess who most recently has become client and friend? Not the current Prime Minister, but the previous one.
Oh, right.
David Cameron.
Yeah. So his book will be coming out shortly, I think.
Yes,
but the reason that it caught my eye was because, as you know, you've often taunted me on the basis that I've never had a book published, whereas you have, of course, with Rooney Tunes.
Excuse me, what do you mean, a book published?
Well, you've had a couple of books published.
Yeah, several.
Well, when you say several, you've had 2, to my knowledge.
No.
What's the third one, then?
Rooney Tunes.
Well, Rooney Tunes is 1.
There's an awful lot of bubbly in Brazil.
Yeah, that's 2.
Both barrels from Brazil.
Okay, 3.
Okay.
So that's 3.
No. I've contributed to a book on Colleen Rooney.
What do you mean you've contributed?
Well, I directed it, so to speak.
Who published it?
No, I know who published it.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. It's our old friend from...
whose name you keep forgetting? John Blake?
John Blake, that's right, yeah.
Well, he published all your books, didn't he?
No. The Brazil books were published by, funny enough, a publisher owned by the Daily Mirror Group, who published mostly sports books, like on horse racing and all that, but felt that mine was so good they'd break the mould and create a new division for it, which is what they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, when I was in one of my periods of resting, shall we say, after I'd been fired from somewhere, I decided to write a novel, right?
Yeah.
And, I did.
What a joke. Was it about yourself?
No, but it was about newspapers, and it was about a lot of skullduggery, and actually there was some murder that went on as well.
Yeah, well, you'd know all about that.
Yeah, well, I did know all about it, and it was actually rather good. And I had a friend at the time who was a former editor, who I had lunch with one day, and I said, I've written this book, but I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
He said, you must give it to my friend Ed Victor.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I've never heard of this bloke.
Yeah, who's Ed Victor?
I didn't know who he was.
Who was the editor, by the way?
It was Richard Addis.
Richard, yes, I see.
Who was a good friend of mine.
Yes, that's
and of course, he knew all these kind of people.
Yeah, of course,
it was his thing. And I had to go into the bookshop and find out who this guy was. So I looked up in the Writers and Artists yearbook who he was, and it said that he was Erica Jong's agent and Frederick Forsyth's agent and all this. Yeah. And I thought, well, this is probably a bit too highfalutin for me, you know. Yeah. But anyway, dutifully, I sent it off to him. And one of the things that I've read in his obituary was that people used to say to him at parties, you know, how do I get my manuscript in front of you, you know, Ed? And how is that possible? How can I possibly do it? And he just used to say to him, no, you can't.
Yeah.
Just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I sent him a covering letter saying that Richard Addis had suggested I'd send it to him.
Yeah.
And he actually read it. And he sent me back this very, very pleasant letter in which he said that my...
It's rubbish.
No, he said... In fact, I always remember the two...
published,
I always remember the two words that he used. He said it was very entertaining and very compelling, he said. And he said, I know for sure that you will get this published. He said, but at the moment... I've got so much going on with all of my clients who I have to spend an awful lot of time with that I feel I can't give you the kind of, sort of attention that you would require. He said, but please do persevere with it because you will definitely get it published.
So why wasn't it published?
Because I then got another job and I just gave up on it. I never sent it to anybody else.
One of the world's leading literary agents had given you an endorsement on something you'd written and you didn't even bother pursuing it with a publisher.
Well, it wasn't I didn't bother.
Honestly, what a drip you are.
What do you mean a drip?
What a give-up drip
no,
you
not
are,
at all.
you know?
It's not a question of being a give-up drip.
If you can't pick it up off a bar or put it in an oven, you couldn't care less.
Put it in an oven?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Well, you're always going on about...
Starting to get delirious now.
No. Going on about cooking these exotic foods, which, you put
I quite enjoy cooking,
into pictures on Twitter.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I never know if they're yours or not. As far as I'm concerned, you've probably bought them from one of those shops in Borough Market.
Yeah, you wouldn't know, would you? Because you can't recognise decent food unless it comes out of a can.
Now, it says here about Ed Victor, right, just to fill in a bit more information. By far the best-known literary agent in London, Victor had his own agency and won a reputation for forcing huge advances out of publishers for clients who included Andrew Marr, who is the BBC presenter.
That's right.
Frederick Forsyth, you've just mentioned.
I mentioned him,
And Nigella Lawson.
There you are.
Who named one of the grilled steak recipes in her book, Nigella's Express, Ed's Tender Rump.
There you go.
That was a joke.
Yeah. Seen the time, by the way.
She and he would eat for one another. Nigella tells me that what she's eating for me, and I tell her what I'm eating for her. We're both very greedy eaters. It's a very strange relationship.
Well, lots of people have strange relationships, and you think they're strange just because they have relationships. Anyway, coming up in the next hour, it's the Porky Quiz.
Yes.
We'll get off this subject.
And a man
Porky
who recognises faces.
Clearly losing the plot. This is talkSPORT. Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. I should say good afternoon, actually. You're listening to the two mics on talkSPORT because it's after midday, of course. So we're here for another hour. It's been quite a roller coaster ride for us. We've had the election. We've had no particular result come from it. Tim Farron's making a statement as we speak. Theresa May's going over to Buckingham Palace supposedly to ask the Queen to say that she wants to form a government. However, there's a bit of a wrinkle to it now because the DUP are saying that they haven't agreed any kind of deal, and the understanding is only that they may well do a deal, but they haven't actually made it yet. So we shall see. We're also talking to a guy called Paul Ferris about some new technology that might make it very, very easy and different for people to travel through airports as well. And, of course, it's the Porky Quiz coming up. And it's all on the subject of Scotland versus England games. You're listening to the two mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on talkSPORT. Quite a lot of tweets coming in as well about some of the things you said. Lan says this, you've just got to mention on 5 Live. Someone says the only way for stability is if the two mics take control.
Really?
Over the election.
Well, we are there to serve our country. The problem is we're from different countries. I'm from England and old MG is from Scotland.
No, we're both from Britain, actually, and the election is part of the British Isles election.
Yes, OK.
It is not an election for England or an election for Scotland.
Well, it's England versus Scotland tomorrow.
It is England versus Scotland tomorrow. And it was Tony Livesey was plugging us, apparently, on 5 Live.
Tony Livesey?
Yeah.
I know Tony very well. Tony used to be the editor of the sport newspaper.
Yes.
And he's a real nice northern lad.
He is a northern lad, yes.
And, sorry, why is he plugging us?
I don't know. He's just reading out a text on his show.
OK, that's very kind.
Which is very nice of him.
Thank you, Tony.
Here's one from Pete. He says, Porky's clearly flagging due to lack of sleep.
No.
I'm predicting a big fat 0 in the Porky Quiz.
Excuse me. I knew that was coming earlier in the week, so I did my research way in advance of our marathon session of informative broadcasting.
Indeed. Anders says this, when will these FA fines be of an amount that any of the people being fined will notice? Seriously, £30,000 for a guy who gets millions. Well, I mean...
Yeah, it's not peanuts, is it?
It's not peanuts. I think if you're going to be hit by a fine and it's £30,000, regardless of how little it means to you, it's a big chunk of change, isn't it?
I think his salary...
What do they do with the money, by the way?
What, the FA?
Yeah.
Put it to grassroots causes.
Do they?
Yes.
So that money would actually be distributed somewhere good, would it?
Oh, very much so, yes, it would, yeah. It
Mm.
would go to build like a new, a new complex of changing rooms.
4G pitches or something.
Yeah, in somewhere like Barrow and the Weald or something like that.
Barrow in the Weald?
Barrow and the Weald, yeah. That's a...
You don't mean Harrow in the Weald?
No. Barrow and the Weald is it's a famous...
There's Barrow in Furness, isn't there?
Barrow in Furness is different, but it's the same part of the world.
Is
it's
it?
in on the Cumbrian coast there.
Okay.
But anyway, listen.
Paul says this: what's the point in Mike Parry having all this cash when he dresses like a tramp and eats like a peasant?
Well, that's
It's
a
a
bit
good
harsh,
question,
isn't it?
that.
Why suddenly the accusation I dress like a tramp? What's that got to,
Well, it's not really sudden, is it? I mean, it's been a constant, really, in your life. I would have thought.
People make petty jibes like that about me. I just ignore them.
Really?
Now, talking about footballers and money, does it surprise you to know that Lionel Messi has purchased a 4-star hotel on the beach down the coast from Barcelona for £26 million?
He obviously hasn't been cleaned out by the HMRC of Spain, has he?
No, he hasn't, no.
If he's managed to find £26 million for a hotel.
Yeah, it's got 77 rooms.
Yeah.
It costs €30 million, which is £26.01 million. This is all reported in a Spanish newspaper called Expansion.
Okay, Expansion.
Yeah,
That's an interesting name.
It boasts a panoramic terrace overlooking the sea. It's stunning views. It's situated close to the beach and seafront promenade of Sitges.
They're calling it a 4-star hotel, though.
Yeah.
Right, so, I mean, why not a 5-star hotel would he buy?
Well, there aren't very many 5-star hotels around, in my view.
Well, there's loads of them.
Not in Sitges.
Well, I've never been to Sitges.
Which is 40 kilometres from Barcelona.
Are you sure that's the right... I've been to Tarragona. Have you been to Tarragona?
Tarragona?
Which is just north of Barcelona.
No.
It's sort of up towards Cadaqués and up towards the French border.
I haven't.
So I'm not sure where Sitges is. But it's a very nice part. It's a very nice coastline, that.
Well, there's another revelation here.
Yeah.
Messi follows rival Cristiano Ronaldo in purchasing hotels. The Real Madrid star owns 4 hotels. Wow.
Yeah.
In a £54 million investment.
I bet you he doesn't buy 4-star hotels. I bet he buys 6-star hotels.
It says the hotels are located in 3 cities, which are all linked to his career. Funchal, which is in Portugal, isn't it? Isn't it? Funchal?
I don't know.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Lisboa.
Lisboa is definitely in Portugal.
That's Lisbon.
That's Lisbon.
And Madrid. And he has another in New York. I think Funchal is near Lisbon.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's the same place.
All
right. In October... Sorry, what's your problem?
No, nothing, go on.
In October, the Portugal International officially opened his new flagship hotel in his homeland.
Yes.
This is Cristiano Ronaldo.
That'd be Madeira then, wouldn't it?
That would be
well, maybe that's where that place is, because that's where he's from. He's from Madeira.
He's from Madeira.
Yeah.
That's where Funchal will be.
Well,
then.
that's what I mean.
Except that this says it's called Pestana CR7 Lisboa. So it's
Do you ever think
in
of
Lisbon.
reading any of this stuff before we actually start the show?
No, it's in Lisbon, isn't it? It's CR7 is his number.
Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo 7.
Correct.
Pestana is the person CR7.
Are you sure?
Lisboa. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Lisboa,
Okay.
which is Lisbon. So that's all I'm saying. Now,
Alan says, by the way, can you please tell that idiot Parry that it was Richard Adams, not Douglas Adams, who wrote Watership Down?
Of course. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Bright eyes, shining,
Burning like fire.
burning
isn't it?
like fire. That's
Yeah.
it. Now, talking about hotels, you wanted to tell me something about Jose.
Hey?
You wanted to tell me something about
Oh,
Jose.
Jose Mourinho. Yeah, well, you know how he was living in the Lowry Hotel, which is a very expensive hotel.
Thought he still was.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. He was living there, right?
Right.
And the word was that he was going to be so fed up with it that he was either going to move back to London, even though he was manager of Manchester United. Because you at one point said that you wouldn't be surprised if Manchester United all moved down to the M25 at some point or other.
Well,
because of the fact that this is the place to be in Britain, right?
Well, look, without doubt, and anybody who says it could never happen is not got any vision. Without doubt, one of these days, Manchester United might decide, look, we could attract even bigger crowds, like 100,000-seater stadium or something like that, if we move to within the M25.
Yes.
Manchester United don't need to be in Manchester anymore.
I can confirm, by the way, that Funchal is in Madeira, his homeland, according to Paul.
Oh, there you go.
So it's nowhere near Lisboa.
No.
But, of course, Jose Mourinho is also from Portugal, right? Now, he's apparently decided that he wants to live at the Lowry Hotel for another year.
Wow.
Notwithstanding the fact that he probably could, if he wanted to, buy a very nice house in Cheshire.
Of course he could.
He could even have
Certainly
Manchester
rents
United.
a very nice house.
Well, they
in
could
Cheshire.
rent one for him, but I can't imagine why you'd want to live in a hotel. I mean,
Neither do I.
Albeit that it's about 800 quid's worth of hotel every single night that he's there, and it's got a suite of rooms which includes a place where you can entertain, a place where you can have your dining, which is separate from your sort of living room, and it's all very nice. But you're in a hotel. It's not, I'm sure you have. I've stayed in hotels for sort of long periods of time when I was working in newspapers, and you go on a job. I remember in Dallas for about a month and a half.
Oh, it's horrible.
And after about the first 2 weeks,
you get cabin fever.
You get cabin fever.
You do.
You've been through the room service menu about a million times. Breakfast is the same every day. You find yourself going out just for the sake of getting out of the place.
Yes, that's
I would
right.
hate to live in a hotel.
Yeah, I quite like hotels, as you quite rightly say, for the first 3 or 4 days or something like that. They're quite entertaining. But you get the other thing is people are constantly looking at you. You know what I mean? You have staff in the restaurant, you have staff in the lobby, you have staff, when you come out of your room and they're cleaning the corridors and all that kind of stuff. And that does sort of bug you. You know what I mean?
We had people in the Marriott in Wales for about over a year. Yeah, right. Various different types of people because we were launching this edition of the Mirror, and they got to know us so well in the hotel. I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but there were certainly some bills that were passed as laundry, which were not laundry.
Yes, that's right. Well, you have to do that sort of thing. Yeah. It was called creative accounting.
Yes.
And it stopped you from getting the sack for fitting your expenses. Now,
I certainly wasn't involved in anything like that.
Exactly.
No.
Apparently he lives in the Riverside Suite.
Yes.
There's a Riverside Suite on each floor of the hotel, but the one that Mr. Mourinho's got is the biggest at 90 square metres.
I'm sure it is. That's very big, isn't it?
It's very big, yeah. It has the feeling of a stylish private apartment rather than a hotel, which I'm sure is true.
Well, I'm sure it's true, but he's still in a hotel, though.
And you still have to go through the entrance to the hotel to get into it.
Well, there might be a separate entrance.
Well, there might be. Each has a view overlooking the River Irwell, which runs through Manchester, and the suite is individually designed around abstract artwork by internationally acclaimed Oldham-born artist Alan Rankle.
I'm not familiar with him.
No, I'm not either, but I'm sure he's a very popular local, artist.
I'm sure he is.
That's right.
Have you seen
Each room, he's done well, this boy Rankle. Each room...
The boy Rankle.
Yeah, the boy Rankle. Each room features a piece of Rankle's art on a what are you laughing at? Rankle's art on a 4 by 2.5 metre upholstered headboard.
Right.
I suppose that's on your bed.
Yeah, I presume so.
Curved around the bed with mirrors strategically placed. I am not sure what sort of hotel this is. With headboard curved around the bed with mirrors strategically placed to allow guests to view the artist's work from multiple angles.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like a very convoluted way of putting a piece of artistic work into a hotel room.
Yeah. Less said about that, the better, probably. We've got much more coming up, including the Porky Quiz, of course. This is talkSPORT. Now, interestingly enough, people fly around the world now with a lot less problem than Mr. Roland Garros used to do.
They certainly did.
And, of course, they can fly wherever they like with a passport. There's biometric passports, there's old-fashioned passports, new-fashioned passports. We're going to talk to a man now by the name of Paul Ferris, who's actually come up with a rather brilliant plan to possibly do away with passports altogether. And we're going to talk to him right now and find out whether it's going to be the end of the queue at the airport. Mr. Ferris, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mike and Mike.
Thank you very much for
joining us.
Tell us about what you've invented, if that's the right word.
Oh, what we've invented. Yeah, it's actually, we've invented the way you can carry your own identity around with you instead of a little red book, and so you don't have to show the book. Just walk on through the airport.
It does seem a little sort of old-fashioned, doesn't it, given all of the different sort of little chips that you can put into your dog and chips that you can put into people if people were willing to do it, that you still have to carry around a little red book.
Yeah, but the last thing we want, of course, is a little chip in the back of the neck. We don't want to do that. No, everybody knows what you look like, and we can use that to get you through an airport speedy and straight onto the aeroplane.
Now,
and then when you get the other end, you'll be able to just walk off.
Okay. Now, does this work, Mr. Ferris, on the basis of individual journeys, or is there some, world brain computer somewhere which contains the measurements and the images of the face of every person who travels on an aircraft anywhere in the world?
Well, what a terrible prospect that would be. No. You carry your own identity. You carry it in your own... It's if you like, it's an electronic identity, but it stays with you. So wherever you go, every time you go through a flight or whatever, it actually checks that it's still you, you know, and you still look like you do look. And then, you know, there isn't this sort of central world's all-seeing eye, which would be a terrible thing for everybody, you know.
Yeah, so what is this? It's called Objectech, right? Is that right?
Well, that's the name of the company, yeah.
That's the name of your company. And what exactly is... So is this a device that you have in your inside pocket or something? I got the impression when we were first looking at this that it was, in fact, a biometric corridor and recognises the shape of your face.
Yeah, face. You know, as technology moves on, it's not just the shape of your face or even the facial features.
Yeah.
We use LiDAR scanning, so it's actually a 3D image of you. And of course, you know, who knows what's going to happen in the future? Maybe it's how you walk and you know, your profile, everything about you. But more than that, it's actually all the transactions you do, even when you're sitting on the aeroplane heading to a country.
Okay.
So tracking all those things. Well, you are tracking it for yourself, and that's what makes it so effective and secure, much more secure than the little red book or any old chips.
And you've just done a deal with Dubai for a sort of pilot project on this. When does that get underway?
Well, we're already developing the systems to make that happen, and we're looking for like first quarter of next year to actually start and work.
Right.
So, you know, airlines be able to pull up at the gate and you'll be able to walk off, and then all you got to do is find your luggage, of course.
Yeah. Now, the obvious question, I suppose, in this day and age in which we live, is how secure is it, and how easy is it for people to get around or to tamper with? And the second question, I suppose, is could it be misused by people who want to somehow steal your identity?
Yeah, well, the existing system, you know, like to be frank, you know, the existing system is, you know, something that was designed many years ago. What we've really done is have another look at it, and we've come up with something that's far more secure in so many ways. Nobody can impersonate you, you know, because it's you are tracking yourself. You're proving who you are all the time. So it's a far more secure system, and certainly very difficult to get around. You know. Compared to the existing systems, it's orders of magnitude just harder to get around.
Okay, so if, for instance, you'd had a hip replacement and you're of a certain age, that would be detected in a slightly different walk or something like that, would it?
It would, and look, we all change our details.
Yep.
We change our look. We grow beards and we shave them off. You know, all those things are normal human things to do. And that's the point. You can't have a sort of central database that tries to keep up with everybody. You know, even when I move house, actually telling somebody that I moved house is, you know, sometimes people forget to even to do that, you know, when they're banking, whatever. But this actually sort of, you know, really follows your life. And that's what makes it so secure. It's, you know, following you around, but it's you that's following you around. It's your data, and you own it, and it's legally your
Porky's
data.
not too keen on being followed around, even by his own identity, to be honest.
Excuse me, I have no fears about being followed around, providing nobody, you know, is of malcontent towards me.
Exactly right.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like your shadow, isn't it?
Exactly. And when this kicks off in Dubai, I mean, will you have will you be offering it the service to people who are travelling there, as it were, to say to them, well, you know, if you do this, you'll be able to get off the plane quicker, save yourself a lot of time, that kind of thing?
Well, you can imagine that what the airlines and the aircraft manufacturers and even the airports think of that. That's brilliant. You know, that one of the main reasons people don't like flying is not flying itself, but actually getting onto the airplane and getting off the other end.
Absolutely right. It is a bit of a shocker. Well, we'll look forward to seeing how the project works out, Paul, and good luck with it.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Give you an update sometime, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be great.
We'll definitely do that. Thank you very much indeed. Paul Ferris there from the company.
Do you fully understand it?
Not entirely. Objectech, I think. It's going to be a series of machines, I think, rather than something that you carry on your person.
Are they cross-examining you all the way through this corridor that you walk up through?
I would think so, yeah.
And checking that your earlobes are the same length and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that kind of thing. So that basically your actual body is your ID.
Yes, that's right.
Your face is your ID.
But what I said to Paul was, I didn't quite understand the answer, is where is the original identifiable requirements of your body stored. You know, I mean,
well, I presume you'd have to go somewhere and have it all kind of scanned.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it would be going into this central database.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right.
Which would then be, sort of recalled from.
I'm sure that's right. You know, I've had a set of clubs made for me by a certain golf company. No, golf
clubs, right?
And what they do is, 100 computers watch you at the same time, and they measure your swing and your body and all that, and then they make you a golf club to the exact length needed to fit your physical profile. So it would be that sort of thing.
You could have just got to Toys R Us and got some.
It could be that sort of thing, isn't it? I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to rise to that. I mean, some very serious issues have been taking place in the world over the last 36 hours, and your meddlesome, irritating, childish gobbledygook is starting to irritate me a bit.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, don't worry. You've only got to put up with it for another half an hour.
Yes, that's right.
Then you can go home. This is talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics, and that, of course, is the signal for the Porky quiz. Last week there was a bit of jiggery-pokery that went on.
There was no jiggery-pokery.
Porky seemed to know an awful lot about the questions, unlike any other time. So today we've had them specially sealed, specially formulated, and Izzy has just now handed me the questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Izzy.
That's the first set of questions.
This is the only set of questions.
When I get the first two right, as usual, you'll try and substitute them for the second.
No, you try and say that every single week, and we all know that there's only one cheat around here. It says top secret on the envelope. You can see very clearly we are filming this live on Facebook. In fact, let me put this out.
Yes, please.
If you are watching us...
Yeah, because I want witnesses to this as well.
You want to watch it live, the Porky Quiz live on Facebook. There's a link going out right now on Twitter. Okay?
Where's that gone out to? The Two Mics account?
It's gone out on the Two Mics account.
Right, yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Is that out there?
It is out there now.
Right.
And I'm going to open the envelope.
Right, okay.
And I'm going to take out the sheet of questions, and there is only one. There's only one, right?
Yeah.
That's it. I can put that over there for you.
Yeah, the false envelope with the false
there is
side.
no false envelope. Are you ready for question number one?
Of course.
First of all, I have to tell you, if you get one correct...
Let me just, excuse me, before so I don't get accused of anything, I just want to make sure that I've got this being recorded on Twitter, let everybody know where it is. Where is it? Here we are. Right, never mind the politics. No, it's not that one. talkSPORT mid-morning. No, I don't seem to have it. You say it's on the two mics. Oh, hang on, I'm on the wrong one.
You're on the wrong one.
Yeah, wait a minute. Let me just get on to two mics, please. I seem to have got the wrong one here.
Why don't you just concentrate on answering the questions?
Well, hang on, because I want people to see it. Right, here we go.
The time. Look, we're nearly out of time.
Listen, we're not nearly out of time. Right, here we go. Right, watch the Porky quiz live here. This is the one?
That's the one.
Right, that's going. Right, that's gone. Now, I will now make a very public declaration of using my phone. Phone goes over here.
Okay.
I haven't got peripheral vision.
That's good.
Okay, let's go.
All right, now, if you get one right, you'll hear this sound.
Silence.
Here's Robertson, who's got a real second win with a shot and a goal under the near post. Scotland back in it.
If you get one wrong, you'll hear this sound.
I tell you, I'm fed up with you. Come on, you want to squid go?
That sounds like you. All right, question number one.
Right.
Where was the first Scotland-England game played?
In Scotland.
That's correct,
yes.
but that's not the right answer.
Right. So you want a more precise answer?
I want a more precise answer than that, yes.
It was played... It wasn't played at Hampden Park, because Hampden Park wasn't built until... 20. Just thinking aloud.
I'll have to hurry.
20 years later, it was played at. I know where it's played. It was played at Bonaccord.
Incorrect.
No. I tell you, I'm fed up with you. Come on, you want a squid go?
It was played at Hamilton Crescent in Glasgow in 1872.
Right. Okay.
Question number two. What was the score?
The score?
Yeah.
Of the first ever game?
Yes. Why are you looking at the sheet?
No, I'm not looking at the sheet.
You are looking at the sheet.
No, I'm not.
You're looking at the sheet.
I'm not looking at the sheet. 2-0.
Incorrect.
No.
It was 0-0.
I'm fed up with you. Come on, you want a squid go?
Question number three. What was the largest victory in any game between the two teams?
The largest victory in any game between the two teams. Think it aloud.
Yeah.
I know this to be a precise score of 7-2.
Incorrect.
No. I tell you, I'm fed up with you.
It's
Come
not.
on, you want
It's
a
not.
squid
It was
go?
7-2. It was 9-3. April the 15th, 1961.
Oh, that was at Wembley.
Was it? Well, if you say so. Question number four. How many draws have there been between the two nations?
How many draws?
Yeah.
Between the two nations.
I'm having to double sort of belt and braces this because I can see you trying to read backwards.
Scotland, England, number of draws.
I have to hurry you, by the way.
Okay, thinking aloud here, aloud. I think it's about, let me see, how many games altogether? 40. The number of draws between the two teams is precisely 21.
Incorrect.
No. I'm fed up with you.
Not bad, though. It's 24.
Yeah, well, you see,
24.
I knew. See, I've done my research.
Out of 113 matches. Question number 5. How many games have been played at Goodison Park?
England-Scotland games,
yeah. Not how many Everton games.
Yeah.
How many England-Scotland games have been played at Goodison Park?
I know the answer to this one.
Do you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's 1.
Incorrect.
No! I'm fed up with you. Come on, you want to squid
It's 2. April the 1st, 1911 and April the 6th, 1895. I can't believe you really either one of them. Question number 6. Who will be the starting goalkeeper of Scotland tomorrow?
Starting goalkeeper?
Yes.
For Scotland?
Yes. At the 5 o'clock Hampden Park kick-off.
Well, nobody knows because the team hasn't been chosen.
That's not the right answer.
No, it is.
I'm fed up with you.
That's not the right answer.
This is a trick question.
No, it's not a trick question.
No. Right, Scotland's goalkeeper.
Yeah, who's it going to be?
Who's it going to be? No, it could be the lad who played for Sunderland, very expensive goalkeeper. Guy before Mignolet, but I think he'd be a bit too old for it now. So, right, greatest Scottish goalkeepers. I think it's
not just to pick someone from history.
No, it's I believe it to be Hugh McMahon. I'm fed up with you. Come on, you want to squid go?
Hugh McMahon? No, I'm afraid not. It's Craig Gordon. Question number 7.
Well, I knew it was Craig Gordon. That'd be ridiculous. That was a trick question. Craig Gordon was the obvious answer.
Well, why didn't you give it to me then?
Well, because you said, who's going to be playing tomorrow. It's ridiculous. That's like saying, who's...
It's like saying, why would Joe Hart be playing for England?
No, it's a ridiculous question. That's a trick question.
You got none out of 6. Question number 7. The last draw between the two sides was 0-0 in the Ruse Cup. Yes. When did it take place?
Now then, the Rouse Cup is named after Stanley Rouse, Stanley Rouse, as we used to pronounce him at the FA.
Okay.
And he was once the chairman, he was president of FIFA during the World Cup in 1966. That's a long way back, okay?
It certainly is.
And then they dedicated the competition to him afterwards, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Then they had a little tournament. And, sorry, what was the question again?
Yeah, when was it?
When was it?
Yeah.
When was it? Let me
see. Last time they drew.
The last time they drew 0-0?
Yes.
That would have been, you know what?
You're doing so badly, I'll accept a year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, let me see.
I don't even need the month. But you have to hurry, though.
Right, it was 1977.
Incorrect.
No, I'm fed up with you. Come on, you want to squid go?
1987.
Well, I knew it was that. I knew it was that.
Right, you got it wrong. You have none out of 7 now.
I just had a blip in the brain.
Come on, I'm starting to feel sorry for you now. Question number 8. We all remember Gazza's amazing goal against Scotland in Euro 96. Yes. Which goalkeeper did he beat?
He beat the goalkeeper in 96. Well, David Seaman was playing for England because he saved a penalty. And then it went down the other end. And then the goalkeeper that he turned over was, in fact... I know it was. It was my old pal, my very old pal.
Yeah.
What was his name? He was a bit of an animal. He played for...
well, you're going to have to give me the name. I can't give you the name.
Yeah. He played for Rangers. Let me see.
I mean, have you done any research at all?
Yeah. I've done a bit of research, yeah.
Euro 96.
Yeah, Euro 96 goalkeeper, yeah. He's famous for being turned over by Gazza. And in fact, I think he should have saved it, really. I thought Gazza struck it off his...
Never mind
shin.
All that. What was his name?
His name was... I can see his face. But really? I can't get his name.
Hurry up.
Yeah, okay. Willie McDonnell.
Andy Gorham.
Andy Gorham, that's what I was thinking of. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Here's a chance for you to name somebody else. Who scored the winner the last time Scotland beat England?
Last time Scotland beat England?
Yes.
That was my good colleague and friend from Everton, Don Hutchinson.
That's correct. You finally got one right.
And I knew Andy Gorham.
Yeah, well, you didn't say it though.
And I knew Gordon, the previous guy.
You got 1 out of 9.
That's not good.
Can you get 2 out of 10?
Of course.
All right. So the nearest 5,000. What is the record attendance of a Scotland-England game?
Scotland game?
Yeah.
Nearest attendance?
Yes.
Hang on. There's gerrymandering going on here to the answers. Gerrymandering. It's on camera. He's altering it now as we speak. Who's this man? Who is he? Who's this bearded freak who's coming to the show?
He's not altering it. There was no answer on the sheet.
Right. Okay.
So tell me what it was.
Oh, yeah. Let's ask the question and make up the answer afterwards. It was 136,000.
That's not bad. I'm going to give you that.
Hooray!
It's 149,000.
Oh,
149,000.
Yeah.
The ludicrous nature of the way that was handled.
I knew, well, exactly.
I've given it to you only because I felt sorry for you. You got 2 out of 10.
I knew Andy Gorham. And I knew Craig Gordon. I knew Andy Gordon. Yeah, but my brain was a bit messed up, that's all.
You need to Red Bull, that's your problem.
No. I knew Andy Gorham. Of course I knew Andy Gorham. I used to do fans forums with Andy in Scotland.
Well, he'll be delighted you've forgotten his name.
No.
That was the Porky Quiz. An absolute shambles as you talk sport.
See you, Jimmy.
You want a square go?
You want a square go? I'm telling you, MG. I'm telling MG. I tell you, I'm fed up with you. Come on, you want a squid go?
A squid go.
You want a squid go?
Aye, let's do it.
Come on.
Let's do it.
That was fantastic.
Very good. This is the Two Mics on talkSPORT with Wix. Right now there's 3 for 2 across gardens and landscaping, including all decking and wood care. Theresa May's returning from the palace. It was a short meeting, wasn't it?
It was very short indeed. Yeah, you wonder what went on there. Now, first of all, before going any further, I must issue an apology. I'm really sorry. Profanity did escape the lips at the end of the Porky Quiz through sheer frustration and it's
on Facebook, of course.
Well,
luckily.
Some guy enters the studio for the last question and supplies an answer to a question you've just asked. I mean, if that's not gerrymandering, I don't know what
you
is.
You hadn't given the answer, though.
I didn't. but I mean that's because I think you changed the question while I was thinking about the answer.
No, I didn't.
I think.
Well, you got it right anyway. So what are you complaining about?
Yeah, I got it right. That's right. Yeah.
Okay, I awarded it to you partly because of the bad way that was done.
Yeah, but people moving in the studio while the quiz is on is just not on. It's just not on, honestly.
Well, I'll tell you what. Some people are coming to their own conclusions. Fred says today's quiz proves unbelievably that Porky was cheating last week.
No.
Porky back to his usual inept standard, says Russ, purely down to the fact that he didn't get a chance to see the questions.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just that we had a lot on our plate this week, and I haven't had as much time to research as I could. I knew Andy Gorham. I'm really upset myself not that. I knew Craig Gordon. I'm really upset about that,
Right. Well, if you got those 2, you'd have only still only 4.
Yeah, but if people look at what I said around the questions, I know that I actually did know the answers.
Really?
I just wasn't able to get out in time. That's
Craig
right.
said, Craig is aping your first answer. Where was the first Scotland versus England game played? And you said Scotland.
Well, you asked me the question, I gave you the answer. It was.
Well, I was looking for something slightly more specific.
Yeah.
Oh, Theresa May's going to speak now. She's standing at a lectern outside the Downing Street scenario. I don't know whether we're going to be able to hear that.
We better pick this up right away.
I think we can hear it.
A government that can provide certainty and lead Britain forward at this critical time for our country. This government will guide the country through the crucial Brexit talks that begin in just 10 days and deliver on the will of the British people by taking the United Kingdom out of the European Union. It will work to keep our nation safe and secure by delivering the change that I set out following the appalling attacks in Manchester and London, cracking down on the ideology of Islamist extremism and all those who support it, and giving the police and the authorities the powers they need to keep our country safe. The government I lead will put fairness and opportunity at the heart of everything we do, so that we will fulfil the promise of Brexit together and, over the next 5 years, build a country in which no one and no community is left behind. A country in which prosperity and opportunity are shared right across this United Kingdom. What the country needs more than ever is certainty. And having secured the largest number of votes and the greatest number of seats in the general election, it is clear that only the Conservative and Unionist Party has the legitimacy and ability to provide that certainty by commanding a majority in the House of Commons. As we do, we will continue to work with our friends and allies in the Democratic Unionist Party in particular. Our two parties have enjoyed a strong relationship over many years, and this gives me the confidence to believe that we will be able to work together in the interests of the whole United Kingdom. This will allow us to come together as a country and channel our energies towards a successful Brexit deal that works for everyone in this country, securing a new partnership with the EU which guarantees our long-term prosperity. That's what people voted for last June. That's what we will deliver. Now let's get to work.
Yeah, let's get to work. And, thank goodness to the DUP for saving my bacon, which we were describing as having not been brought back quite in the right way before.
I mean, that was the speech of a Prime Minister who may have had a 60-seat majority. Yeah. Very confident, very bold, and I have to say, what's the word I'm looking for, rather dismissive of...
Really?
Dismissive of the electorate,
no.
or...
Well, no, I'm just not convinced. I mean, I couldn't tell whether it was a helicopter in the background or the sound of straws being clutched at the last minute, because I'm afraid I'm not very convinced at all, and I still don't think she's going to be around for very long, because I don't think she can handle it. She literally is very unpopular. She's proved herself to be less popular than the last lot, and so, I'm afraid, it may be curtains.
Well, we don't know, do we? I mean, politics is a hell of a machinatory process, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And the knives will be out in certain quarters, the defensive barriers will be going up in another quarter, and the shuffling for power must have begun. I'd love to know what's going on in Boris Johnson's head at the moment. I really would.
So would a lot of people. We are the Two Mics, of course, on talkSPORT. We're with Wix. Every day we give away £100 Wix gift cards to the best caller. Today's winner is Dan, the Man United fan, who said that we can't move forward under the current election result.
That's right.
Well, it looks as though Theresa May's going to try and move forward under the current result, but Tim Farron's called for her to resign.
Yes.
We've already had Jeremy Corbyn calling for her to resign. She says she's going to form a government. Who knows how it's all going to end? Vicky says this, maybe this should be the final tweet of the day. That can of Red Bull standing in for Porky would have done better than the plank did. Absolutely shocking.
Very harsh.
I mean, poor old Porky's been up all night,
Well, we both have been up all night, but I look in better shape than you do. You look dishevelled.
I'm considerably younger than you are.
You look dishevelled.
I'm not wearing the same shirt, by the way.
Worn out. Sorry?
No, I'm not worn out. I've got a new shirt on.
Yeah, but my quality shirts, I mean, look, it's only...
Your quality shirt?
I'm trying to remember how long ago I put this shirt on. I put this shirt on...
When did you put it on?
I put it on at 8 o'clock last night.
8 o'clock last night?
Yeah, so that's
you've
8
worn it...
till 8 is 12.
Yeah, so you've worn it
plus,
for 17 hours.
Nearly 17 hours, yes.
I put this one on at 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, OK, well, good for you. That's because your filthy old first shirt, done all stains all over it and you spilled coffee on it, so it's not my fault.
Go home and have another croissant to line your stomach.
Yeah, good idea.
This is talkSPORT.
Yes.
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.